on X-Men.
The podcast that looks back on X-Men comics, movies, shows, characters, and more. What? I had to look at the script.
Just a weird leg.
I had to look at the script.
Okay, go on.
It was down, and you said that, and I
looked away,
forgot
and
my
there's
part.
just silence.
You think I would remember what we talk about on this podcast?
We talk about the X-Men.
Yeah, the comics, the movies, the shows, characters, and more.
And more.
You can find more about this show and others like it at our network's website, radiomeanwhile.com. Other shows on the network include Three Nice Things, where we force ourselves to say three nice things about a movie with a bad and often earned reputation. Is It Classic, Does It Rock, where we pick a band or artist and go through the discography, album by album, track by track. Radio 64, Video Game Music Remix Radio, and 9021, Here We Go, a 90210 rewatch podcast.
Okay, one more time, but like 2 times faster. Go.
Share your thoughts on this and upcoming episodes by following us on Facebook and Twitter at Previously on X. Please rate, subscribe, and share this show on iTunes, Spotify, YouTube, or wherever you get your podcast. I'm Eric Mickles, also known online as Dust vs. Tweak. With me is my co-host, Hilary Gunning.
Hello.
Today we're talking about the 2013 film The Wolverine.
Which we watched together
Yeah.
last night.
Yeah. And we had watched together in 2013. Do you remember 2013 at all? Like this? Can you remember that?
Like the year
Yeah.
or watching the movie?
I guess the year.
The year
Yeah.
2013.
Yeah, it's only 7 years ago.
No, I don't.
No, nothing? All right. These are usually our longer episodes, so I shouldn't try to come up with like small talk at the beginning.
We'll just chit-chat a little bit about it.
A sequel to the first solo Wolverine movie was announced days after the opening of X-Men Origins Wolverine.
Really?
Like days.
They were really into the universe in those early days.
Yeah. Oh, I guess we should point out, we're back into sequel territory. Mm-hmm. Because...
Are we doing the timeline thing?
Well, no. I mean, we will at
Okay.
times, but X-Men Origins Wolverine
Yes.
and First Class, both prequels.
Yes.
And First Class was a prequel even to X-Men Origins Wolverine.
Mm-hmm.
Now we're back not into just a sequel for X-Men Origins Wolverine, but a sequel to all the X-Men movies.
Yeah, so we're back in like real time X-Men.
At the time this movie comes out, this is now the one that's taking place furthest along the timeline.
Yes.
So it's kind of funny to think it had to get 2 films before we got to a sequel. So some people could see this as an X-Men Last Stand sequel, or just Wolverine 2.
Yeah, well, I think it stands more as a sequel to Last Stand.
Yeah.
Just plot-wise.
Yeah. If we, unlike Wolverine, can remember the events of X-Men Origins Wolverine, we'll recall an end credit scene of Wolverine drinking in a bar in Japan. He was drinking to remember.
This?
No, but that wasn't a story scene for this movie, but it was a scene that was promising where the next Wolverine film would go.
So it's just sort of like an out-of-world...
Yeah, he was just in
Spoiler?
Japan. Well, it was just one of those things like, we're going to go to Japan next.
Yeah.
Before it was out, they knew they wanted to do the Wolverine in Japan story. Hugh Jackman has stated that the Chris Claremont Frank Miller Wolverine miniseries from 1982 was one of his favorite stories of Wolverine.
Is he one of those people who already knew about the X-Men, or did he like research it once he got the role?
I'm pretty sure he researched it once he got the role and has read a bunch of stuff.
Yeah.
So I remember on the X-Men 1.5 DVD, like Patrick Stewart said when he got the job, they just sent him a whole bunch of Professor X related comic books to just read and research.
Yeah.
Christopher McQuire, who had done uncredited work on the first X-Men movie.
Uncredited?
Yeah, for screenplay work.
Oh, okay.
And is now known for the latest Mission Impossible movies, like the past 3,
Yeah.
I think.
Like Ghost Protocol and whatever else there is.
Not the fourth one that you really like, not the Brad Bird one, but so the last 2.
Okay.
Rogue Nation and Fallout. And now the next 2 that are coming. Anyway, so he's responsible for some Mission Impossibles. Was brought on again to write the screenplay. At the time, Bryan Singer had turned down the role of the director, and Darren Aronofsky was brought on to direct. Are you familiar with... Do you remember this at all? Darren Aronofsky being hired to direct Wolverine?
No.
He was considered a different choice for the film because his previous work at the time was Requiem for a Dream, The Fountain, and Black Swan.
Well, that's interesting.
Yeah, it was kind of a big deal. I mean, I've seen The Fountain. He worked with Hugh Jackman on that. That's a trippy movie. Like, his films are trippy and
Do we know why they picked him?
No, I don't really know what it was outside of maybe Hugh Jackman suggested him. Yeah, so commenting on the director, Darren Aronofsky, working on Wolverine, Hugh Jackman said, "This is, hopefully for me, going to be out of the box. It's going to be the best one, I hope." Well, I would say that, but I really do feel that, and I feel this is going to be very different. This is Wolverine. This is not Popeye. He's kind of dark, but this is a change of pace.
This is not Popeye.
Yeah, I don't know.
Now listen.
Maybe it's a musical reference.
It's possible you thought it was Popeye.
Yeah.
But
don't. Hugh Jackman
not.
is here to tell you this is not Popeye. Yeah. So is Sabretooth Bluto?
In this scenario?
Yeah.
Yes.
But then is Olive Oil, Gene, or Silver Fox?
Oh, that's a good question.
Did he think X-Men Origins was Popeye?
Who do we ask this question?
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe Christopher McQuire?
Let's do it. Let's get him on the podcast. We will ask him, who is Olive Oil in this scenario?
Chris McQuire, who wrote The Usual Suspects, has written the script, so that will give you a good clue. Aronofsky is going to make it fantastic. There's going to be some meat on the bones. This will be something to think about as you leave the theater for sure.
Okay, so it sounds like
Hugh Jackman wanted this.
Hugh Jackman was in for this director.
I think he has like a lot of pull as this character.
I mean, I would imagine, yeah.
But I remember like this happening, this casting being official, this hiring of the director being official. And then it was kind of quiet for a while, just like an interview here and there with Aronofsky talking about Wolverine. But in March 2011, Aronofsky stepped down as the director, citing he didn't want to be out of the country and away from his family for that length of the film.
They need to pick an X-Men movie, get everybody on board, make plans, write the script, have it all lined up, then go ahead and make that movie with those people. Present that movie to the audience.
See how that works out.
This is the scenario we should be going
I remember not buying his excuse about not wanting to be away from his family. Like, just bring your family to visit you in Japan.
Isn't that kind of one of those things that people say when they really mean that they had some hideous affair or something?
I also remember other people online being like, that doesn't track.
Yeah.
Because, it just... Anyway, he didn't want to do it. He found it out.
Eric, is this a good or a bad time to say, I don't think I can do the podcast anymore. I need to spend more time with my family. Is this a good...
Can you do this remotely?
Because, good because, it makes sense with the context of what we were just talking about. Bad because then I'm not...
Are you leaving right now?
As soon as possible.
So... Oh,
can you do this without me?
Can I have your notes?
No.
Oh my gosh. Oh my word.
You know what? I'll stay on a little longer.
Okay, thank you. Okay. I was going to have to get Brett Ratner. I was going to have to get Brett Ratner to come in and co-host this.
He'd be a really good fill-in for me, I think.
I would just be like, so Yukio walks in, he's like, yep, she's hot. So, okay.
That's basically what I would say.
Thank you, Brett Ratner. Yeah, you wouldn't even know the difference. The film was also delayed in 2011 due to the Tohoku earthquake and tsunami that happened. After Aronofsky left, Fox chose from a list of 8 directors and settled on James Mangold, director at the time of The Wolverine, Copland, Girl Interrupted, Identity, Walk the Line, 3:10 to Yuma, Night and Day, as well as the Hugh Jackman movie Kate and Leopold.
That is a weird list.
Yeah. Also, he might have been he apparently was a writer on Oliver and Company, the Disney movie.
Who is this person? That's a weird list.
Yeah. At that point, I had seen some of Girl Interrupted.
I love Girl Interrupted.
Walk the Line and 3:10 to Yuma.
Okay.
So I knew 3:10 to Yuma.
I saw Night and Day. Is Night and Day the one where it's like a spy thing?
Cameron Diaz and Tom Cruise.
People didn't like that. I liked that.
I didn't like it either.
I thought it was fun.
But 3:10 to Yuma, I liked. It was the remake of the whoever was in it, but it was the one with Christian Bale and
remake of what?
3:10 to Yuma.
Oh, I don't know what that is.
It's a Western with Christian Bale and
I'm not surprised I don't know what that is.
Beefy guy.
I wish you could see
I made a square head.
The gestures that are happening.
He was also in Noah. Who am I thinking of?
I don't have
Gladiator.
Oh, Russell Crowe?
Russell Crowe.
Kind of beefy? Okay, yeah, you're right.
Great. You love Identity. That's Identity.
I do love
That's
Identity.
Your Identity movie.
I do. So I sort of like this director, apparently.
Yeah. He did that new racing movie with Christian Bale.
Also haven't
Ford
seen that.
versus Ferrari.
I love Oliver and Company. Does that count?
Yeah, I don't know how much he wrote on it. I didn't look up Oliver and Company's creation, so I don't know if his script was rewrote. I don't think he wrote the songs. I think that was Billy Joel.
Is he not Billy Joel?
No.
Okay.
The film was delayed again, so Hugh Jackman could star in Les Mis, the movie. Well, Hugh Jackman was good in Les Mis.
He was okay.
Mm-hmm.
He was okay.
Oh, boy.
Let's move on from there.
Do you know, I wrote, when I was you wouldn't know this, when I was originally writing all this down, I wrote, the film was delayed again, so Wolverine could star in Les Mis. And I was like...
I think he would have been better if he had played the role as Wolverine.
I had to delete. I'm like, he's not actually Wolverine, he's just Hugh Jackman. So then I wrote, the film was delayed again, so Dad could be in Les Mis. I was like, no, wait!
No, delete!
Stop! During that time that Hugh Jackman was filming Les Mis, I watched that. It was a long time. Also,
I love the musical Les Mis.
Russell Crowe was in that.
I did not like the movie.
During that time, Mark Baumbach was brought in to rewrite the script.
Baumbach.
That Christopher McQuire wrote. So apparently...
Is this just how movies are made?
Yeah, just like, you know what? We've been sitting on this script for a while. Rewrite it.
Just make a movie.
I guess a script has like a life date of a year or something, it seems like.
It's weird.
If not used by, break glass and rewrite. Apparently, Mark Bomback tried to bring Rogue into the movie.
I like Rogue.
But he told...
I don't know if our listeners know that about me.
Yeah, he told creative screenwriting he couldn't do it without making it goofy or problematic.
I want more explanation of
both
of those terms.
Right? How... Oh no, I've made Rogue problematic to hang out with Wolverine. Maybe...
Problematic?
Yeah, maybe...
Like sexual?
Maybe he tried to add a romance. I didn't really dig too much into it.
Don't do that.
No,
Goofy.
I wouldn't. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, goofy. That'd be funny. But I guess she's like... She doesn't even do like the southern accent. So it's not like she's going to be like... In the movie?
It's just a softer version of it.
I think she's going to walk around Japan like, hi, y'all. You all have a Silver Samurai now?
That'd be funny. I like that.
Okay. Marco Beltrami, who had worked with Mangold on 3:10 to Yuma, did the score for The Wolverine.
Did you like the score? You always notice the score. I never notice scores.
I guess I'm an intellectual.
I guess that's what
I leaned
that
into the
means.
microwave.
Intellectual.
I just called the microphone a microwave, so I guess I'm not an intellectual at all.
Cancelled.
Yeah, I like the score. The original cut was 2.5 hours.
Too long.
This movie that we watched, the version we watched, was only like a little bit more than 2 hours.
Spoiler alert.
So add 30 minutes to it.
Still too long.
The cut scenes include an extended fight between Wolverine and the Ninja Clan, and a shot of the comic Wolverine suit. But I don't think any of those would have made the movie 30 minutes longer.
I don't think so.
I'm not entirely sure like what all... I tried to look up the extended cut. You can get the extreme cut. The extreme cut on Blu-ray and everything. I feel like I'm past the point of my life where I care about extended cuts. Like when I was a teenager, I'm like, wow, 20 extra minutes! I can't... And that was all I watched.
Usually there's a reason.
Yeah, now I'm just like, you know what? I'll just watch the theatrical version. The only thing now is Lord of the Rings. That's it.
Lord of the Rings, yeah, because they had to cut, like... legitimate storylines.
I think also because it was at that point in my life where I cared about that stuff, and now that's all. Those are the versions I'll watch, over, right? Yeah. But now when they're like, "Oh, Days of Future Past," or any movie, anytime they're like Avengers now with 20 extra minutes, I'm like, I'm just gonna watch.
Well,
Avengers.
Nowadays when you look at them, if you watch the extra scenes, it's all just like them taking a little extra longer, and walking out of the room. Yeah.
So all more power to people who care about that stuff, but at this point, nah. Yeah. I'm just gonna.
We're over 30. Just move on. Move it along, guys.
I guess whichever I feel is also like, if I know there's like an actual director's cut. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's interesting to see.
Like, yeah.
We could talk about that when we get to Days of Future Past.
Yeah. The movie was released on July 26, 2013. The summer of 2013. Do you remember the summer of 2013? Let's narrow it down. Do you remember July?
How my brain works.
All right. Context. Your husband was in the hospital.
Oh.
I was quitting my job at the grocery store.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So it was right before I left for Florida. Now we're putting into context.
I see. Yep, we're all... This is valuable information, I think, for everyone.
With a budget of around $120 million, it made $132 million in North America.
Which is, by your tone, not good.
Not good. Making it the second lowest grossing film in the X-Men series domestically.
Okay.
That means North America.
There was something at... I have this vague memory at the time of it not being hugely promoted.
Well, right now it's only ahead of Dark Phoenix because it's the second lowest grossing movie. Yeah, like First Class was good. Yeah. Didn't make a ton of money. Didn't like blow anything out of the water. Wolverine, we'll talk about whether how good it is or not. Also didn't really. It wasn't until Days of Future Past that like they made bank. What's fun or interesting, I like it, is that this movie made $284 million internationally, which meant it made more internationally than any previous X-Men film.
That's interesting.
Topping, the two bigger ones were, you know what, I won't try to figure it out. But yeah, so it actually has a total of $416 million, which was better at the time. So it's now ranking number 7 in X-Men films. According to thenumbers.com, screw you, Box Office Mojo.
Wow, taking a stand.
Its Rotten Tomatoes score at the time of recording, it's 71% for critics, 69% for audience.
Seems okay.
Like First Class, I feel like it has also gone down over the years. I remember it being in the 80s.
Yeah, that makes sense.
When it first came out. Yeah, I think the fact that it takes place in Japan was kind of the big selling point for its international box. I remember people talking about how just it not being set here in the United States made it a little bit more, though it didn't do gangbusters in Japan. But I guess like, you know, how many
particularly exciting to
they're like, oh, yep. Yeah. That's us.
Look, it's Tokyo.
Yeah, I mean, they make their own movies.
Yeah.
So
they got their own.
It opened at like number 3 at their box office.
Yeah.
So, and like a Miyazaki film was out at the time. So, should we get into casting now or later? Here's why I feel like I want to get into casting now.
Okay.
Because okay. Here, we'll just get into it right now.
Let's just get into casting now.
Hiroyuki Sanada plays Shinjin Yashida, who's the main villain from the 1982 comic book series.
Okay. So that would be interesting information to have before watching the movie.
He's the one who plays Maruko's dad.
Yes, the dad.
The dad.
Gotcha.
Yeah. That's why I'd say, because there's like generations here.
Right.
But then the comic, so then you have Teo Yakamoto as Mariko. This was her first role. She also plays Mercy Graves in Batman vs. Superman, a character who just is blown up in the movie.
I don't remember
the
that
courtroom
at all.
scene? The whole jar of pee.
Oh, yeah.
She's in there.
She's just in there?
Yeah.
Okay.
Spoilers for that movie, I guess.
There's a jar of pee, everybody.
Rila Fukushima as Yukio, a character who's connected to Wolverine in the comics, and also the woman who inspired Storm to go with her mohawk and leather outfit in the comics.
In the comics?
Yeah.
Like she saw this character.
They hung out, and Storm was inspired by Yukio's like free spirit.
Oh.
And
cool.
Then she showed up with her mohawk and everything in the
Something
80s.
Interesting about me and Storm.
Uh-huh.
I didn't used to like the mohawk, and now I do.
The mohawk's cool stuff. So there's Will Yoon Lee as Kanuicho Harada. In the comics, Kanuicho Harada is the original Silver Samurai.
Okay.
Who is the illegitimate son of Lord Shinjin. Lord Shinjin
who
in the comics is Shinjin Yashida, Maruko's dad.
Gotcha.
Haruiku Yamanouchi as Ichiro Yashida, who is the grandfather.
Okay.
The guy who wants to see Wolverine before he dies. He is an amalgamation of some characters
from
because
the comics?
He doesn't really exist in the comics. Maybe a bit of Ogun, who's a scary guy in the comics, and a bit of the Silver Samurai, but he's kind of like created for this role because Shinjin is that character. Brian T as Noboru Mori, known as Noboru Hidaki in the comics. So they changed his name around a little. In the comics, he's Maruko's original abusive husband.
I always think that's interesting when they make changes like that because I couldn't have told you his name to save my life. So why did you change it?
He's killed off
what difference does
in
it
the
make?
minute. He's just there for
weird.
a little bit. And then you have Svetlana Hilary
Kodchenkova
as Viper. In the comics is Madam Hydra, since she works with Hydra.
Oh, yeah. So is Viper the name only in the movie?
No, she also goes by, I think she goes by Viper now. I don't really care about Hydra in the Marvel comics. And so, like, Viper, I only know when she appears sometimes. I think maybe I've seen her more. She's like a Captain America villain sometimes.
Yeah.
Maybe Daredevil villain. She shows up in comics I read.
Daredevil.
I know, but I don't... He doesn't really deal with Hydra much. He deals with the Hand.
Right.
The point is, I only know about Viper when she shows up, and I don't really get too into it. So when I was like, oh yeah, that's it. So she's not like a mutant and stuff. But
she's not a mutant
in the comics.
Okay.
I
think she is in the movie.
Yeah, she is a mutant in the movie. Silver Samurai presented by one of the characters, but it isn't the character who plays the Silver Samurai.
In the comics.
Right, because William Lee is the one who plays the character who is the Silver Samurai in the comics. But the person who ends up being the Silver Samurai in the movie is the original for the movie, Yashida.
Okay, so the guy, this illegitimate son, the movie.
And he's in the comic.
Who is he in the movie?
The illegitimate son is William Lee as Harada.
Yeah, who's Harada?
Harada's the guy with the bow and arrow.
But he and Mariko have a
I don't think he's
romance.
the illegitimate son of Yashida in this movie. I think he's just an aside character.
I'm letting it go.
Okay.
I'm just going to move along.
Yeah, I was looking, I'm like, who is who again? Here's the thing. I don't really care about the Silver Samurai.
Yeah.
I think as a kid, as a teenager, I was a little bit more interested in Silver Samurai, but I don't really care about the Silver Samurai and his history. When he shows up, it's fine, but I'm never like, sweet, Silver Samurai. I'm actually not as invested in like Wolverine's like Japanese connections as a lot of other people.
Me neither.
I think maybe it's because of the Marvel Universe or like the X-Men. There's just something about it that always seems like close to being like what I like, but also a little bit like dull and borderline weeaboo.
I don't know, but I know what you mean.
Yeah.
It feels like approaching exploitative.
Yeah.
It's sort of like they realize that people who like comics might be into Japan stuff.
Yeah.
And so they're like, yeah, he's a samurai too.
So yeah, when they're doing this, I could only give so much interest in like, yep, there's a Silver Samurai. And when they were like, Silver Samurai will be in the movie, I'm like, great. I guess for me, like, I'd rather see like Omega Red. or something.
Yeah, I could see that.
Or, you know, I mean, if they hadn't used her in X-Men 2, Lady Deathstrike might have made more sense.
In this context?
In this movie, but she was used in X-Men 2 and, you know, is dead.
Yeah.
So I like Mariko. I like Yukio when she shows up in the comics, but yeah, Silver Samurai, Viper, I could take it or leave it in the comics. So that's my comics opinion on them. Anyway, our history with the film, Hilary, you and I, my wife, and your husband, we all saw this. Oh, and your husband's friend, I don't even remember his name. Jesse?
Jesse Rouse?
We all saw the movie together in a small theater across the street from the library.
Okay.
Wellsville.
Yeah, so that would have been Jesse. So we all saw it together the very first time.
Yep, a pretty small theater.
And then we just saw it together last night.
Yeah. How many times have you watched The Wolverine since we saw it originally that one time?
I think just once before the most recent time. I think
like in
I
a
saw
marathon?
it in the movie.
Uh-huh.
I think I saw it again.
Okay.
Because we did some rewatch thing
all right.
a few years ago.
Maybe, yeah.
And then I did it again last night.
So not a lot. I remember rewatching this on DVD a whole bunch of times.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, it felt like it's the same thing with, like, First Class, but I'm pretty sure I saw First Class way more times than this. I'm not sure if it's, like, true, but I feel like I did rewatch this a bunch of times because I was, like, shocked at the time by its quality and everything. And but I think the last time I watched it was right before Days of Future Past because my mom and my sister were visiting me in Florida, and they hadn't seen this. And it has the end cutscenes. So I'm like, well, I guess you'll have to watch this because it's going to be important. And then, of course, it's not important because nothing is ever important in the X-Men continuity movies.
Yeah.
But anyway, so we watched that then. And then I don't think I've rewatched it since then until last night.
I'm not very much of a rewatchy person anymore. When I was a teenager,
we had more time.
Quite a lot.
Yeah, you just put it on when you came home from school.
There's other stuff to watch.
I know. Same thing. It's like either you're going to watch something new or you're going to watch something you've already seen.
Right.
And you start realizing you only have so much time left on the earth.
Time is passing, you guys.
Yeah. You know what? That's going to come up with somebody's opinion on immortality in this movie. So that's a bit of
We'll save the philosophizing for a little later.
Yeah. I mean, so that's the history of it. I've never seen the full extended cut, like we said. So, and we're just really talking about the main cut and a scene we watched just before this.
A scene that Eric tricked me into watching.
I don't think there's any other, like, crazy history with it.
Yeah, it's a pretty basic history. I think because we watched it together, that it's just sort of like, we watched it together.
Yeah, I know.
That's it.
I guess,
that's the end of the story.
Is
that the first one we watched together?
In theaters?
Yeah.
Yes.
All right. That's all.
The only one.
Really?
Yeah.
We didn't see Days of Future Past together?
I was in Florida.
Oh, yeah. All right.
Let's just get into the movie.
This is a weird moment.
Fox logo opens up.
Does it happen?
Does not do the X marks thing. It's so obnoxious. They do it sometimes, and then they don't do it another time.
As I was sitting there, it happened, and I just, like, out of the corner of my eye, I see him lift up his notebook and scribble.
I'm keeping track of it.
Furiously.
Yeah, I don't think the Deadpool movies do it either. But we open on Nagasaki.
Yes. Which both of us.
Nope.
I'm saying it. We wrote down separately Hiroshima.
Yeah, and then when they said Nagasaki, I had to cross it out.
And then we flipped back our pages.
Yeah.
And scribbled it out.
Had to accept my ignorance.
It could have been one of two. I said question mark. I said Hiroshima, maybe?
Yeah.
Or perhaps Nagasaki.
Yeah. We are in pre-X-Men Origins Wolverine timeline.
For this moment.
Because it's World War II. So if it's following that timeline, then this Wolverine, I guess he's having another one of those me and Victor just apart thing. But it's World War II.
Well, it's conceivable that Victor is
assigned somewhere else.
Yeah, or like
we saw them storm. I guess that's kind of confusing because we know Wolverine was storming Normandy with Victor and X-Men in like that first couple of minutes.
That's true.
But here he is trapped in Nagasaki.
Presumably a prisoner of war.
Yeah. He's got his bone claw still.
He's in a pit.
Yep.
Of some kind. And he's climbed up with his claws and is peering out at everybody. And he sees...
He's just curious.
One soldier freeing all of the prisoners because the
they know that bombs are about to drop.
And so he's having mercy on these people. And he seems to be the only one who thinks to do this.
Yeah, because actually there's a guard tower that starts shooting all the people running out of the prison. Right. And the other guy's like, no, stop it. No. I mean, we're talking about...
So it turns out that
Ichiro.
This is...
Ichiro. Yashida.
Yeah, Ichiro Yashida.
Yeah.
And he comes up later because, like, we see some more, like, chaos and stuff happening. And then eventually... he catches...
Well, they do the...
Wolverine's eye.
Yeah, because the bombs are coming. The other officers are going to commit seppuku.
Yep.
Something that...
Which is graphic.
Yeah. Really? You think it's graphic in this?
Well, I think just
is.
knowing what it is.
Yeah.
And
I was fascinated by seppuku as a teenager.
It's so gross.
I mean, as a teenager, I was definitely a weeaboo. I don't think there's any way around that. You know? I was definitely like one of those people like, oh man, I wish I grew up in feudal Japan. I wish I had to have a reason to commit seppuku.
So romantic.
Yeah, it was just, so whenever I see that, I'm like, oh, geez, there it is again. Yeah, I remember reading about how it works out.
So they all do that, but Yashida doesn't.
He's a bit like scared by it, and he doesn't do it in time because when the bomb drops, he's now just gonna be wiped out with the bomb. There's not enough time to like not experience that. But Wolverine's there.
Yeah.
He grabs him. And I guess he's not Wolverine we should stop, because he doesn't get the name Logan. Wolverine until the 80s.
He's just Logan.
It's
an interesting moment right there, because I was expecting it to go where, like, they all kill themselves, and Yashida is like, I'm going to, no, and run back to the pit.
He's still young.
He doesn't.
Yeah, he's still young. He's still scared. I mean, it's so blinding.
Logan has to come and get him and bring him back.
I mean, yeah, he would just stand there in just, like, absolute shock. So, yeah, Wolverine has to, like,
really does
drags him and, like,
him.
Throws him into the pit, covers him with some metal.
Yeah, and just takes the brunt of the...
Atomic blast?
The atomic blast, which was, like, across the bay.
Yeah,
and then he's just, like, barebacked.
I guess we are supposed to assume that the pit is a lot deeper than it looks.
Like, so deep, I guess. Because,
it does not seem like something that's a nuclear shelter.
I mean, they definitely, like, the blast happens and then...
Burns Wolverine to a crisp.
It burns him and he's bald, and it's, like, it's pretty dramatic. But, like, I feel a little bit like he just wouldn't be there anymore.
I think both of them would,
I think he'd just be gone.
Yeah. It's like how in Independence Day, remember when they're running through the tunnel and the blast is coming, but they get into, like, the side door?
Oh,
and then shut the door. It's kind of like that. Like, well, they'd still be dead, wouldn't they?
They'd probably still be dead.
Cooked up. The burnt up thing, I wonder if that, like, because this originally was rated R, and they had to cut things out to make it PG-13. But I guess you can show somebody, like, just burnt to a crisp like that and still be PG-13.
Yeah.
You remember when we talked about X-Men Origins Wolverine and how you really loved that intro with Wolverine through time? This is more what I was talking about, what I wanted. Like, more meat to those scenes.
Like rather than an overview, like really just getting into that moment.
So if we had seen a Wolverine movie of him through time with longer vignettes like this of him doing stuff, I think that would have been... I think that's
you
what
don't think that would have really bogged it down?
No, that would have bogged it down. Obviously, you can't make a movie just out of, like, vignettes.
It just, like,
but I think that's what I want. I would just wanted, like, more character moments. Obviously, you can't do that in, like, an opening credits montage. Yeah. But this is definitely more of, like...
It's interesting that both of the Wolverine movies basically did the same thing in that regard. Like, have the back flashback, and then how that impacted his life later on.
Wolverine wakes up because it was just a memory. He was dreaming about his memory.
Yep, his memory of that time.
And
he wakes up and he has a crazy beard.
No, he wakes up next to Jean.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
First wake up.
Yep, he's next to Jean, just hanging out in one of those, like, dreamy, everything is made of sheets.
Like all the filmy white sheets.
Yeah, everything is sheets. The curtains are sheets, the doors are she's glowing. The whole room is very well lit. It must be always facing whichever direction the sun is.
Seems like they'd be squinting. Like,
windows,
what is this?
Windows on every wall, so it's always getting the sunlight.
Yep, beautiful.
And then she's like, oh, don't worry, you're safe. Oh wait, no, I'm bleeding. You stabbed me to death. You killed me.
Yep.
Yeah.
So then we realize that this is taking place.
This is also a dream.
Basically immediately after
First Class. No, oh my gosh, Last Stand. X-Men Last Stand, yeah.
And it's the first moment that we see of many moments in the movie.
Of Jean.
And the fact that Wolverine is right now going through, like, basically post-traumatic stress with having murdered his girlfriend.
I would cross out this is real very quickly because of how Jean is.
Oh, yeah, you never think it's real.
It's not real. So it's either Wolverine is just going a little crazy, or it's like a psychic echo from Dark Phoenix, or something else.
Which I think is plausible. I think they leave it ambiguous enough, and I don't think it would be insane to think that it was an echo.
Yeah, I think it's supposed to be metaphor, but I would easily, I just kind of accept it as like a Dark Phoenix psychic echo.
There's something about some of the things she says later that sort of makes it feel like maybe it is, because like she says something about being all alone there. Yeah. And it just sort of feels a little bit like there is an existence happening.
Yeah.
But it could also just be his guilt.
Yeah, I don't think we're supposed to, like, really figure out whatever it is one way or the other.
Yeah, and it doesn't really matter because the main point of having these flashes is just to get into his psyche.
Yeah. Maybe this is it. Maybe this is just purgatory. Maybe in the X-Men universe, spiritually, there's just this purgatory. And so everybody just goes here.
Everybody just goes to the sheet world. So anyway, she's like, oh, everything's fine. And then she freaks out and he wakes up and then he has his crazy beard.
He has his crazy
he's
mountain
like a weird
beard.
mountain man.
Yeah, he's got like a radio. What did you call him? A magpie?
I called him a magpie because he had a weird little nook of shiny objects.
He's just got his little lockbox that has some pictures in it.
Mm-hmm. It was adorable.
Yeah.
So then he apparently is living some life.
Yeah, because like
the mountains of
he goes to
Canada?
town. I think it's Canada, right?
Probably.
That seems like where he would go.
It's some northern...
But he's living in town enough that he can go to the store and buy things. But he's also living in the mountain and not shaving, and I assume not bathing.
Right.
So he must reek. I used to work right at like a entry point.
Is this going to be more information than I want?
Right at an entry point for the Appalachian Trail in the Berkshire Mountains.
Okay.
I worked at a pizza place, so we would get hikers fresh off the trail, middle of the summer, but they're decked out in all their clothes and their backpack. They have not stopped to shower. I'm not sure they do shower on that trail. So
gross.
It was one of those things where your eyes start to water and you can't breathe, and like you try to breathe through your mouth, but it starts to feel dusty and gross. And so like you just run somewhere, breathe a lot, come back and take their order.
So were you having flashbacks during this movie?
I just imagine when he's in the car with Yukio, she just must be like, remember your training. Remember your training. Because if he's just out there and it's raining.
Yeah, he's probably really gross.
He's hanging out with a bear that's peeing all over the place.
Yeah, well, see, this my favorite part of the early bit is that he's walking to town.
Yeah.
And a bear shows up. Yeah. And you're like, oh no, a bear. But
they
just sort of like nod to each other.
Well, because Wolverine's marking the trees with his own claws.
Yeah.
And so the bear's doing that as well. So, like, Logan's making sure the bear knows what part of the mountain is his territory. And the grizzly's peeing to, like, well, this is my territory.
So it's one of those, like, Wolverine is half animal kind of a thing.
Yeah. He's got this, like, nice coexistence with the grizzly bear.
Yeah, it's
Remember,
so cute.
Grizzly bears, you play dead.
I will remember that.
Yeah. They run so fast.
Well, because they're big, and, like, if you try to fight, you're just dead.
You can't beat a grizzly bear. No, not hand to hand.
And that's the one, too, where if they're charging at you and you shoot it, it'll still get to you.
Yeah, they run 40 miles an hour.
Yeah.
40 miles an hour. That's crazy.
It's really fast.
Oh my gosh. They can outrun us easily. Anyways, it's a bear. I think Weta made the bear. Weta, the people who did the special effects for Lord of the Rings in District 9.
It's funny that you think I know things like
Sorry, I guess I thought because you like Lord of the Rings. Weta was
I don't like
they
it. They
became like a big name from their effects for Lord of the Rings.
Oh, okay.
Anyways, they did the bear, but also
an okay bear.
The dying, like when the bear is dying, it's animatronic.
Oh, okay.
So there's a bit of that in there. Yeah, I thought the bear looks pretty good.
Yeah, it was
CGI
fine.
wise.
It was fine.
So
Yukio shows up as this mysterious
like
woman who's following him around.
Yeah. In the comics, she is just kind of like this free spirit underworld player who helps Wolverine a lot in X-Men Contact, Wolverine Contact. Mm-hmm. If you're in Japan, you run into Yukio in the comics.
Yeah.
Is how it goes.
She's a great character.
She's very different in this.
Oh, yeah?
She's like in leather, she's got the shortcut and everything. This one, like you pointed out in the movie, she has an anime flair.
Oh, yeah.
Like with the skirt and the hair and everything. So.
And like the leg warmers.
Yeah, she's got like the high boots and the anime skirt.
Yeah.
With like the short pants and the...
But like a big fluffy jacket.
Yeah. But she's fun. She's been in Arrow a few times.
Oh, yeah!
So there you go. And she was in the Ghost in the Shell movie. Yeah, Wolverine goes to the store and everything to get beer. I guess he can get drunk. He can't get drunk. His healing factor would stop it.
Well, maybe if he drinks fast enough.
You think he's trying to outrace his healing? Well, he is, isn't he?
Yeah.
He's trying to outrace his healing factor. Oh, it's a metaphor.
It's a metaphor.
But he just likes the taste, which I don't understand. If you can't get drunk,
then what's the point?
I do not understand the taste of whatever he's drinking.
Yeah.
So also, I mean, it's just raining on him while he's drinking. It must just be.
He's got to be just like punishing himself after killing Jean, you know.
Yeah. James Mangold said something about how like the X-Men are disbanded and stuff, which I find to be BS. I just assume that Wolverine's just can't be there.
Yeah, I guess I was just imagining he ran away.
Yeah.
Because you know what?
What?
He goes where he wants to go.
I don't know. He seemed happy at the end of Last Stand. Remember the last scene?
Happy?
No, at the end of X-Men The Last Stand, he seemed fine. He's like watching TV. He's like, way to go, Furball, when Beast gets promoted. He's just out there looking out like...
Was he supposed... Yeah, you're right.
He's not mourning anybody. It looks like he's just going to hang out with the X-Men.
Maybe that is after this.
You think he comes back?
Maybe.
No, because the cemetery. No.
Jean
goes
to Japan.
This.
No, goes to Canada. Then Japan.
Oh my goodness.
And then he comes back and then that scene happens.
All right. I just think, I don't know. It's quite a turn from him just being like, all right.
Yeah,
things are back to normal.
You're right.
There were some hunters. They were hunting a bear. They were using poison-tipped arrows, which made the grizzly bear go crazy and kill a bunch of people.
Yeah.
And so Wolverine has to put the poor bear out of his misery.
It's so sad.
It's a sad bear. If grizzly bears
he talks to it, he's like, don't make me do it.
I know. If grizzly bears weren't so big and dangerous and would just eat us so quickly, I'd want one as a pet.
They're so cute.
Could you imagine just having like a grizzly bear sleeping at the foot of your bed?
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Sometimes I think about that. I'm like, I've got dogs, and that makes me feel safer at night.
Yeah.
What if I just had a grizzly bear?
You just had a grizzly who was devoted to your safety.
Right. Like a dog.
Yeah, like a dog.
I mean, bears are just big dogs, right?
You know what you need, though? You need a Leonberger.
What's that?
That's the kind of dog that you need.
Oh, the big bear dogs, yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, I guess so. Anyway, poor bears. I think bears are cool, so I feel bad about
Anyway,
it.
so the bear is dead.
And then
Wolverine is not happy.
He goes, and it's almost, I mean, it's a bar fight, so we're familiar with Wolverine doing a bar fight. Yeah. This is his third bar fight in the movies, if you count the Sabretooth bar fight. I think you can't be Wolverine without bar fights. Yeah. I wonder if they're trying to, like, harken back to the X-Men 1 bar fight.
Could be. There's not a lot of, like, imagery that's familiar, but yeah, it's the same vibe.
He hasn't really, like, got to be funny, so he gets to be funny while also being like cruel in the scene.
He's really funny in
because he stabs the guy with the arrow. He's like, ask me where I found this. He doesn't. He's like, ask me. He's like, where'd you find this? He's like, well, funny you should ask.
He just does it so like straight.
But Yukio shows up and helps out.
Yeah, because Wolverine finally is like going to kill them all.
He's gonna kill this guy, and he says, sorry, Jean.
Like,
she stops him.
She basically shows them that she could kill them all if she wanted to.
Cuts their beer bottle in half.
Yeah. And then walks away.
Yeah. She has future powers. That's made up for this movie.
Yeah, it's an interesting thing.
The movies like doing this.
Yeah.
But
it does sort of, it doesn't further the plot, but it allows for some interesting foreshadowing.
Yeah, and you realize that there is a limit to it.
Yeah.
Like it's not necessarily like a final death for some characters. I guess, and she tells him, I've come here on behalf of Ichiro, Yoshida, who wants to meet you, and Wolverine seems very much like he remembers it. So I guess Wolverine remembers his past now. I guess we need to start accepting he just knows his past.
Yeah.
Because he shouldn't remember Japan, but he does.
Well, maybe it's like there's a period of stuff he doesn't remember.
You think it's like short term? I mean, he doesn't remember his name at the end.
Yeah, that's true.
But, I mean, X-Men 2 was the last one to deal with what's your past? Like the searching for a past.
Yeah, and like Xavier has been working with him throughout all the time that he's at the
Institute.
Institute. Maybe he is getting some
It's not a plot
snippets.
point whatsoever in the third movie.
Yeah.
Origins. I think it's just the problem with Origins, how it showed us the audience.
Yeah.
So now, as an audience, we don't care.
Right.
About watching him figure it out.
Yeah.
So, and James Mangold, he said during the pre-production, if you have a hero who can't be hurt, there's only one way to create stakes or jeopardy, and that's to put the people he cares about in harm's way, and not unlike the amnesia thing, that can get tired really fast.
That's true.
So I think James Mangold just didn't want to do the amnesia thing. Mm-hmm. It's fine. The amnesia thing lasted for decades with Wolverine without getting tired, I felt. I think it still was like a hot mystery for a while. But maybe that's just me because when they finally started announcing things, I was still 16 or 17. Yeah. So I was just still fascinated by you could just say he has a mysterious past in comics. I'm like, wow, a mysterious past.
Well, I think the thing is that it can't be the main plot point.
Yeah, not anymore.
It can be a thing about his character, but there's only so much you can do about he can't remember and so blah. Yeah.
I think it's just best to assume going forward in all Wolverine movies, he just remembers everything about his past.
Yeah, I mean, it's got to be the
because in Logan, he has a ID card that says James Howlett.
Oh yeah.
So, Wolverine hates flying again. Yeah. I don't understand.
They keep bringing that back.
I hate flying because I know if the plane crashes, I'm dead. Why does Wolverine hate flying?
Well, maybe because if the plane crashes, he's mangled. But also, phobias aren't really.
I know they're not rational. Yeah. Yes, I know.
So
flying
it could just be that I mean. It could be that he's so old that he's from a time before that was really a thing, and so he just can't really. Yeah. You know what I mean? It could just be this thing that just gets him.
I guess it would work. I get it because he's a tough guy. He's a tough, dangerous guy, but he hates something he hates flying.
Yeah, it's fun. It's a nice aspect to his character.
But it'd be like if Superman was like, "Oh no, not a plane."
Well, Superman's different, because Superman can't be hurt.
But, so Wolverine's just afraid of, like, the pain that could come from a plane crash.
I think he's just afraid of flying.
Okay.
I think that's it.
I mean, maybe this will... Okay.
He just has a
Yeah.
physical reaction.
I think he'd be fine.
He would be fine.
Yeah.
And he knows he'd be fine, but it doesn't mean he's not scared.
I guess we like get like a tour of all the characters. Like we see Shinjin Yoshida, the dad.
The dad, yep.
The dad. This is
right
grandfather,
off
this dad, this is
right off the bat, you're like, this guy's a jerk.
He was in
Speed Racer!
The Last Samurai, Speed Racer, Rush Hour 3. Oh, he was in Sunshine. Yes, I remember him in Sunshine. 47 Ronin, along with Mariko.
Oh, he was in the Wolverine.
Oh, Hilary. Yes. He was in Life. You saw Life.
He was in Avengers. He was in Endgame.
Yeah, he has been in so many movies as we look through him.
Is very clearly a jerk. We first see him when he's fighting, right?
He's training.
Yeah.
Because Yukio's like, he's all right.
He's all right.
Yeah. He's training in armor and swords because Yoshida keeps one eye on the past, one eye on the future. Mm-hmm. So, tradition, progress.
Yep. Because when Wolverine first shows up in Japan, we see that he's some sort of tech giant.
He owns like every billboard he sees is a Yoshida something.
Yeah, so he's huge.
Industry, yeah. We also see Mariko, but not much of a like interaction.
Yeah, she just sort of like skirts by.
Mariko. I like Mariko for the most part in the comics, but I've never really found her like fascinating.
Yeah.
I guess like when I read the Claremont stuff, she was interesting. I didn't really read about her like death in the comics. Mm-hmm. She died in the comics from a blowfish toxin, and Wolverine had to kill her. She asked him to kill her so that she wouldn't have to experience the pain.
Gross.
The guy who did that was Metsuo Tsuruyaba, who is responsible for Psylocke's body switch whole storyline. Mm-hmm. Anyway, Wolverine now visits him every year on Mariko's death and removes a part of his body.
What?
Yeah, in the comics.
Gross.
Oh, and Mariko's back in the comics now, too. She was like Scarlet Samurai. I tell you what, did not care about that.
Yeah.
I was glad that Mariko was going to end up in the movies, but I was like, I'm not totally like super invested in her as the comics. So.
She was fine in the movie. She's just sort of like a pretty lady.
Yeah, this was her first role.
There's not a lot going on. Oh, yeah?
Yeah. All right. It was funny because Yuriko says, you haven't checked my emails. This is 2013. Are we still saying, why haven't you responded to my emails on your phone?
Yeah.
In 2013?
Why didn't you respond to my emails?
We were already like, it just seems so funny.
Yeah.
In 2013, I wasn't responding to emails.
Yeah.
All right.
I do like that moment, though, because when you first see Mariko, Yukio running after her and to complain about the emails. And it's just the first moment that you see that they have a personal relationship.
Yeah. Yeah. We find out that Yukio was found on the streets.
Yeah.
Just like
and sort of
through
adopted
garbage.
As a friend.
She was brought in by Shinjin to like, be a friend because Mariko had a hard time making friends. So she's like not an adopted, like it's a foster situation.
Yeah.
So.
Well, it seems like they've made clear for her entire life.
Yeah.
That she is not a member of the family.
Yeah. Yeah. It definitely seems like Shinjin is making sure. Wolverine has to get washed and his haircut before he meets.
Yes, and do you think that it was on purpose that it looks exactly like the scene in Beauty and the Beast when they wash him off in that big tub with like the big brushes and everything?
Did you want to see exactly a scene where like the curls came up and he was just like, I look ridiculous?
Yes, I did. Best
haircut for Wolverine so far? The shortcut?
It looks like he should have frosted tips.
A little, okay. I like the haircut. I think it's
it's okay. It's fine.
It still has like the Wolverine edges.
Yeah.
But he looks better. He looks sharper with that.
Yeah, that's true.
We meet Viper, who again, I don't care about in the comics.
See, this casting is so interesting to me because it could just be that they were like pretty blonde lady, whatever. Mm-hmm. But there's something so weirdly striking about her in this context.
She was a model before this as well, like a Russian model.
I mean, she's like a pretty generically pretty, tall, blonde woman. But there's just something about her sort of mundane style. I don't know. It always strikes me in a weird way.
She's a character. Her and Harada, the guy with the bow, they seem to suffer from like somewhat interesting, but like a somewhat interesting take, but also very forgettable. Yeah. Like neither one of them, it's hard to pinpoint what they're doing and what they're getting from it. Like, you don't really know entirely like what Viper gets out of all this deal.
Yeah.
And you don't really I still have a hard time understanding what Harada's like.
That's definitely
really doing.
At least with Viper, they sort of give her that like perverse.
She's like a henchwoman.
You
can just
hurting people or whatever.
Yeah.
You get that, but with Harada, it's like I don't really know what's going on with you. Just because like it's tradition that his group has protected the family.
James Mangold says this about the heroines in this movie, that they all have missions. They all have jobs to do other than to be the object of affection.
Okay, so it sounds like he was being purposeful in trying to like present.
And I mean, Viper. I mean, I don't know entirely what it is, but she seems to be like she's not being like a lusty villain. Like,
no, she's definitely not. And for as like, I mean, she's a model. They cast a model. So for as like. Much as they're focusing on her physical beauty, she's not very sexualized.
But and Mariko is like trying to deal with like the whole family business stuff. Yeah. And Yukio has like her job, so like they all have their own job.
They've got their own stuff going on.
Wolverine's just entering their lives as opposed to their lives being important for Wolverine, I guess.
We get a lot in this of Wolverine scrambling to solve problems, which is my favorite kind
of solving problems. Scrambling
of being a superhero is my. It's why I like Tom Cruise in all of the
Mission Impossible
movies because, and Harrison Ford in basically anything.
Because they're always just like running and out of breath.
They're just like accidentally getting away from things and just very frantic.
Yeah.
And...
So the point is, the reason he's been brought here is Yashada wants to take Wolverine's healing ability away from him.
Which he presents as a gift.
A gift.
To Wolverine.
You can grow old, you can die, you can just live a normal human life. Which it seems like Wolverine wants, but Wolverine is very like, I'm not doing that.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like, well, what do you want, man?
Yeah. Well, I think it's one of those things where like he can curse the mutation as much as he wants, but it is a part of him. Yeah. He doesn't actually he doesn't really want to do it.
The reason Yashada wants it is because he's an old man, he's dying. He needs the healing power so he can be healed.
And in that first moment when he's telling Wolverine that he'll take it away from him, he never actually says, so that I can have it.
Yeah, that's true. Well, no, he does, because he's saying, I'm still not ready to die.
Yeah, but that's like as far as you get. It's there's no direct, like, I'm going to take it and then, for myself.
Logan tells him, you don't want what I have.
Yeah.
Yoshida says, what is it? Eternity can be a curse. This is the thing I never understand. And you know what, though? I did a book club with... Gosh, what were they? 7th graders. 7th graders, I did Tuck Everlasting.
Tuck Everlasting is a horrifying book.
And I talked about immortality.
Oh,
and
it's so upsetting.
And they were just like, no, I wouldn't do it. It would just make life meaningless and all this stuff. I'm like, you kids are young and stupid. Yes, you take them immortality.
I wouldn't.
I don't understand this way of thinking.
Just like existing forever, it's creepy.
At the end of the movie, Yoshida says, you think a life... that lives forever has no meaning. It's the only life that can have meaning. And I'm just like, yes!
He says that, and I don't understand what he means.
Because it's the only time where you can just really do everything you want to do without fear. And, I mean,
it's just the question of what is meaningful.
I guess if a genie came out to...
you would be a supervillain.
No, I wouldn't want to be a supervillain.
I think you would.
But if I found a genie, I'm looking at the fine print to see what immortality consists of. So I've thought it would be immortality and invincibility. Because I don't want to live forever and then get hit by a bus.
Yeah, that's...
You know what I mean? Then also, I don't want to be invincible and then die of old age. Both of them. I need both. You need both. So.
Okay.
Anyway,
I will make a note.
I'm never totally invested in the people like, why must I live for... Everybody's always like, oh, but you watch so many people die. And I'm like... Well,
you're heartless.
That's just how...
You're a heartless person.
It's not... You just make new friends.
You would be a supervillain.
You don't have to be a supervillain to want to live forever.
Let's do a Twitter poll. Would Eric become a supervillain?
Part of the reason why I like Multiple Man as well, because in the X-Men comics, because he kind of gets this like paralyzed fear of making choices. Because with his doppelgangers, he can make all the choices. But when it comes to him, he doesn't know which one to take. When you realize you only have so much time on the planet, then you start think like all your choices really matter.
Yep.
And when you're immortal, you can just be like, you know what I'm going to do for 100 years? Learn kites. Learn how to make kites. Learn how to fly kites.
You're too young for this.
I'm not too young.
You are too young to be freaking out about
I'm not
this.
freaking out because it's not a thing.
When you are 65.
Okay.
Then you may start freaking out.
All right. Wolverine's tea is green. It's smoking green.
What?
He's got tea next to his bed. And there's a vapor coming out of it, but it's green.
Okay, so
he's been poisoned.
He's talked to Yashida. He goes back. He's like in bed now.
Yeah.
And he has tea. And it is green, and we're like, oh, it's poisoned.
Mm-hmm. You know what? At this point, actually, before all that, we see Mariko, and she's fighting. Is this where she's fighting with her dad?
Could be.
Yeah, and then he slaps her.
It doesn't really matter. There's a point where she kind of like is outside.
They're fighting, and her dad slaps her.
Yeah.
She runs like she's gonna jump off the ledge and fall to her death, and Wolverine stops her.
Yeah.
And he's just like, "You done?" He calls her princess.
He calls her princess throughout this movie, and it makes me crazy.
Well, you know.
Hate it. I hate it. I hate it.
I don't know if it's... doesn't really seem like she's going to kill herself. I mean,
no,
she's
it doesn't.
running.
They bring it up again later with that like meaning that she had been going to kill herself. I thought she was just dramatically running out into the rain and crying.
Maybe it was just a moment, but I don't totally buy that she was going to jump.
Yeah.
Viper, he wakes up to Viper kissing him.
Yeah.
And breathing.
Which is presented almost like it might be a dream.
I think because of the poison and everything, he thinks it's a dream, but it is really happening.
Yeah.
Because we find out later what they did to him. And then we see Black Suit Wolverine. I think with this short...
they're going to the funeral.
Right. In the night...
Yukio, turns up.
Ichiro Yashida dies.
Yeah, Yukio turns up at Wolverine's room and says... He died.
I didn't foresee it. Oh, maybe that's because...
I don't know.
So we go to her funeral. Wolverine's wearing a black suit. I think with the black suit and the short cut, Wolverine makes like a really cool figure.
Yeah, he does.
In this now. I think it's a good look for Logan.
Yeah.
So, but this is where you think
he's not super welcome.
No, people don't like him.
He very clearly stands out. Everyone's uncomfortable that he's there, but he feels like he needs to, pay his respects or whatever. Yeah. He talks to the son. The son is very racist to him.
Shinjin, He's just like, I think it's time for you to go back to your cave.
Yes.
Yeah. There's no backhanded
He says something about your kind.
Mutants, yeah.
So he's a jerk. And then...
Yeah, because later on in the movie, Shinjin says something about, like, his fascination with your kind brought dishonor to the family.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's no backhanded, there's no, maybe you'd be happier back in your cave. It's like, go back to your cave, you dumb animal.
Go and die.
And this is where you think he looks like Victor.
Well, yeah, because he catches... one of the monks has, a tattoo or something, and he's like, wait a minute here. And then it turns out that they are... What is
Yakuza.
it? Yakuza?
Yeah.
And then... he has to protect Mariko. So then he's fighting. Everybody's fighting. They're shooting him in the face and stuff. Mm-hmm. And when he's spinning around and he's got the long black jacket, it just keeps... It kept making me think of...
They're brothers.
Sabretooth.
I wonder...
Just from the movie.
Just X-Men Origins.
Yeah. But yeah, I don't know. It just kept looking like him to me.
Well, they are brothers. Half brothers, but still. Mm-hmm. They share a father. We see the silver samurai suit. But it's just like a samurai armor.
Do we see that early?
Not the big machine one. The armor.
Oh, okay.
Just the traditional samurai armor.
Okay.
They say it's the silver samurai, protector of the family.
Okay.
And Wolverine's healing is on the fricks now.
Yeah.
Now.
It's really interesting because initially I thought because they're using guns, because we don't see him get shot very often. So right off the bat, it's oh, interesting. He has a harder time healing from guns.
Yeah, because in
but then it's oh, right.
X-Men 2, he gets shot in the forehead and it puts him down.
Yeah.
So, I'm sure, I bet it's a combination of that. He's being shot, and he's not being, knocked out like he was in X-Men 2.
Yeah.
But he is, we know his healing's on the fritz because it gets kind of slow motion and a little, fish-eyed.
Yeah.
I guess, the fish-eye lens kind of effect. And then we see the guy with the bow, Harada. Is this his first time? I cannot remember seeing him. He's just on the roof.
In the movie?
Yeah.
Yeah, this is his first appearance, and you don't really know if he's a good guy or a bad guy. He's just sort of watching.
He swears that he's going to protect Mariko. Because the Yakuza is after Mariko, and we find out later why later in the movie.
Yeah, but they've made several kidnapping and murder attempts.
Yes, and now they've got him. They run through it's funny because at the bar, Wolverine says, "Sorry, Gene," as he goes to kill the one guy because he's going to break his vow.
Yeah.
But then he doesn't say a thing and just starts killing Yakuza like crazy.
Well, I think it's different because,
he's
in
protecting,
one case, he's just,
gonna murder
taking
the guy.
revenge.
Yeah.
And in this case, he's protecting someone.
Yeah.
When is it that someone... It's when Yukio first shows up and is talking to Wolverine early in the movie, she says something about how he can't stop being a hero.
He's a soldier.
And that's what you see for the rest of the movie because there's no reason for him to be the person who jumps into this situation, but he does. He just immediately is okay, I'm gonna save this girl.
Yeah, they run through you laughed at the scene in the pachinko, or maybe you grimaced. What was it when they're in the pachinko casino and he's they're in that closet and the guy's running to the door and Wolverine
yeah. We said.
Oh, you were laughing because of Harada's arrows. Because, like, the guy's just running and Harada just shoots the arrow. And it's just like a silent...
He's so far away.
Yeah.
And he's just like...
It's a very, like, long pause as we watch the arrow fly through the air and just knock the guy to the ground.
Which is terrible.
Yeah.
But also really fun.
Yeah. Hey, I've been to Japan.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I remember that.
I was in Japan for a month. But I was in Okinawa. And I'm told that the differences between, like, Okinawa and mainland Japan are night and day.
Oh, yeah.
So I haven't been to, like, Tokyo. Then we get to the bullet train.
I love this. The bullet train is a great scene.
Before the big fight, he's like talking to Mariko. He's like, "Oh, this is a bullet train. Huh? This goes pretty fast." That was another thing. I'm like, do they know that Wolverine also had kind of a heart-to-heart talk with Rogue on a train in the first movie?
Oh yeah.
There's all these like brief bits that remind me of X-Men 1. Yeah, I don't know if it's on purpose or not.
Was he sitting sort of behind her in the first movie too?
No, he just sits right down next to her.
Huh.
Yeah.
Okay.
And he's like, this is one of those regular trains, huh?
They get
Goes
away.
kind of a regular speed. And in this one, he's like, this is a bullet train, right? Faster than the other train I was on.
It's exactly the same. So they get away from the Yakuza and they're on the train.
Mm-hmm. But then when Wolverine's like dealing with all the blood because he's not healing.
Right.
So he's got all these bullet wounds. He kind of bandages up after making a mess of that bathroom.
Yeah, gross.
The door just opens up and it's like 5 Yakuza.
Yeah.
Just standing there.
And to be fair, they do nothing threatening before he attacks them.
Yeah.
They're very clearly kind of thuggish type people. And, like, they're not backing away from him. They're not giving way or anything. But, like, they aren't really overtly threatening. But he just, like, charges right in.
It's a big fight inside where he claws the wall and then kicks the guy out the wall.
Yep.
And then they all go out the wall. And Wolverine's, like, on the edge of the train, but he has to jump up to the top of the train.
Yeah.
And how fast do bullet trains go?
I want to know how many movies have had fights on top of trains like this.
I should have looked this up. A bullet train speed...
320 kilometers?
200 miles per hour.
That's fast.
That's what Wolverine is on then. Yeah, a lot. It's definitely a superhero thing, too.
Yeah.
Like, Batman's had his fights on the train. Spider-Man.
Captain America does it.
Oh, the first one.
Winter Soldier.
Yeah, the first one, they have the fight on the train when they're like...
Is it not Winter Soldier?
No. I know what you're thinking of, like, on the mountains. It's where Bucky dies.
Oh, okay,
in the first
that's why.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a thing in superhero movies.
Yeah.
But because there's superheroes.
Fun.
They can have fights on trains. Yeah. Or Back to the Future.
It probably goes back to, like, Westerns.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like when they would be doing the people
now
trying
you can
to
just
rob
make
the
them go
train
faster
or
and
whatever.
everything.
Yeah.
It's a fast scene. Like, every time they're not holding onto the train, they just go flying.
Yeah.
Or, like, thrown back.
It's
There's
crazy.
that funny scene where the Yakuza is, like, knocked back, and he's, like, scrambling for it, like, through his sleeves for another knife to grab into the thing.
Yeah.
Wolverine and him are, like, jumping over...
like signs or something.
Signs and everything, and then Wolverine fakes him out, and he jumps but gets hit by the one that was
so
at the
good.
top one.
I love it.
Wolverine, like, just lets go and goes flying into the guy at 200 miles per hour, I guess we're supposed to assume.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's fast. It's a fun scene. I kind of wish... There's part of me that wishes there was just, like, one more bit to it, because it's, like, it's just so different than, like, any of the other superhero train fights. I wish there was, like, one more guy that he had to, like, handle in a different way.
Yeah, that's true.
But maybe that's why I don't make movies.
They do have that one cute, not super original, but always funny aspect.
Where he's like, we see the window,
you see,
and Mariko's
like,
just
all the
on her
crazy
headphones.
stuff happening outside the window.
Yeah.
She's got the headphones, and she doesn't know.
I like how she ignored, like, he's talking to her on the train, and she
Yeah.
just puts the headphones in. And it's just such a bratty move. She's like,
Yeah, one thing I wrote about her is that she's very petulant throughout the whole thing.
Yeah, that's a cool fight scene. I feel like a lot of people... Like, if people don't really remember everything from this movie, they remember the bullet train fight. It's definitely kind of like a standout scene in the X-Men movies because, like, they don't usually do these kind of scenes.
Yeah, that's true.
Because
it's sort of a classic action-y thing.
Yeah, well, it's something like you would do in a solo movie, I guess. And since
that makes sense.
X-Men Origins Wolverine didn't have, like, too many, like, big action, memorable action scenes. And then, like, the other ones are usually about team members and, like, much bigger moments. So, it kind of is, like, fairly unique in this X-Men universe. And they have to go hide out in a love hotel.
Oh,
They choose the Mission to Mars room. Mission to space.
Mission to Mars.
Yeah.
It's Mission to Mars, and then he walks in, and it's all, like, chrome and
Yeah.
stuff. And
Everything's
he says,
plastic.
It's kind of homey, actually.
Yeah. I laughed because he puts like keys or something down on the chair, and it's just a hard plastic chair.
Yeah.
It's just like, oh, this would suck.
Yep, it's great. Oh, one thing I was gonna say about when he's fighting on the train, it's like every other scene when, like, something will pop up or something, he keeps almost mouthing the F word.
Yeah.
It's really funny.
Yeah. Yeah. He does that at another point too. I can't remember what it was.
Well, I think it's initially.
Oh, you know what it was? It was when he I I think it's when he's like trying to deal in the bathroom.
Yeah, it's in the bathroom was the first time I noticed
he's like,
it.
Fuck.
Yeah, it's just, I don't know.
Yeah.
There's something about his delivery.
How many times is it Hugh Jackman be like, PG-13, PG-13?
Yeah.
But Wolverine's just out on the porch, and he passes out because he's not healing.
Why is he outside?
Well, he doesn't want to be in the love
motel
with Mariko.
I kind of looked away, and then I looked back, and he was just like in the rain, and I was like, what happened?
Just because she's in there, he doesn't want to, I don't know.
Unnecessary.
Okay. Well, he passes out. He wakes up. She brought him to a vet.
Oh,
who heals him up.
Yeah.
But
I love her delivery, because she's like, he's a doctor.
Of sorts.
And he says he's a veterinarian.
Yeah.
Student.
And then she lists like all the animals. She's like pets, large livestock.
Yeah.
It's just he cut the vet. I feel bad for him because like when he goes to say thank you, the vet's like ah.
Well, it's nice that he kept doing it.
Yeah. You know what's funny? Part of me almost wants. I just played Metal Gear Solid 3. Mm-hmm. At a very early scene, Snake, the main character, is talking to. He's in Russia and he's talking to a character, and they're both speaking English. But after a conversation, the character goes, "Oh, by the way, your Russian is perfect." So we're to assume that Snake is speaking fluent Russian, and now everything we're watching is just in Russian. Uh-huh. I kind of wish there was like a scene where somebody's like, "Oh, by the way, Wolverine, your Japanese is perfect."
Yeah.
I don't know. I guess they could have gone with that, but they didn't.
Yeah, you sort of wonder because there is something. I guess just because you know about the character, he just has a lot of Japanese influences. Mm-hmm. You sort of feel like he would speak Japanese, but then it sort of seems like in the movie version,
maybe when he lost his memory, he also lost all his second languages.
They're just gone.
Yeah, he's like, darn it!
I worked so hard. I used Rosetta Stone.
Oh no, Viper is a bit poison ivy. That's what I figured out.
Yes,
it was when she's
so in
because she's talking to Harada in the alley, and she's saying all this stuff to him. But yeah, she's like a not sexualized version of Poison Ivy. If this was Poison Ivy, she'd be just like in a bra and panties and just be like licking everything. Yeah. I mean, I guess she does lick things in this and with her poison.
But in like a gross way.
Yeah, with like her snake tongue.
Yeah.
But because it's poisony and because of like the work she's doing and just her, it kind of comes across as like a Poison Ivy take on this character.
Oh yeah.
So, especially later on too, when she's like talking about the thing she is. She's like, I'm a capitalist.
Yeah, later when she's got Wolverine captured,
trapped.
That there's a serious Poison Ivy.
Wolverine he puts the chopstick. So anyway, Mariko and Wolverine go find a cottage. I think it's her family cottage.
They go to the end of the line because she has a
family
cottage
home there. Which she said is stupid, but they go there anyway.
It is stupid.
Yeah.
It's so stupid. She's like a billionaire. She could go anywhere.
Yeah. We find out that she is the one who's going to inherit the entire company when Yashida dies, her grandfather dies. So she's going to get everything.
Skip her dad and go to her. She doesn't want it.
Right. But she's going to get it.
She's going to get it.
Wolverine has his chopsticks up, which she says is a bad omen.
Because it's reminiscent of the incense.
Yeah, and she says nothing is without meaning, which is like our thesis statement of this film. Yeah, Wolverine goes for a walk. He remembers Nagasaki. He also has the memory of Yashida, like showing him how to use the Japanese sword with two hands.
Right.
They go up, and Yashida sees all the destruction and breaks down in tears. So, like, it's just more of that, like, Wolverine remembers all this stuff.
Yeah. I thought that was a nice moment when Mariko was saying something about... Because they're walking on this place where the last time we saw it, it was being bombed. Yeah. And now you see it, and it's green and beautiful, and she has that thing about how, like, we can recover from anything.
Right.
It's just a nice moment. Then
they have to run back to the cabin in the rain.
Yep.
They're in love.
It's the most... I mean, this should be like a Keanu Reeves movie. It's just...
a Nicholas Sparks scene.
Yes, it's a Nicholas Sparks. The whole thing. As soon as they get to the coast, it's just a cheesy romance movie.
They're soaked, so they have to change. So he's putting on a kimono, but he can't tie it right.
He's not doing it right. Let me show you.
So she has to tie it and be very close, and they're all whispery and breathy, and then they start kissing.
Yep.
It doesn't... The sex does not seem right for Mariko character-wise at all.
None of the affection is right from her.
Wolverine, I guess you could be like, well, he's like a animal man.
Yeah, he's just like a brute.
But I get that they like, we gotta hook them up because they're in love in the comics. But they have not been together long at all in this.
And they haven't had some, like...
I don't feel like a prude either, saying, like, it just seems to come out of nowhere.
It does come out of
nowhere.
And she doesn't fit with her character.
Or the way she's, like, seem to be responding to him at all.
Yeah, she doesn't seem attracted to him.
Yeah.
And it's like what we've said earlier about the women. She's got her own thing going on. Like, she doesn't need this.
Yeah. If anything, him and Yukio are the ones with, like, chemistry.
Yeah.
He doesn't really have a lot of chemistry with the actress playing Mariko. And maybe that's because of the way she's written or the way she's playing the character. But it just seems flat. And I also feel like they just kind of do her a disservice doing that. Like, they just did it to throw it in for that, like, the romantic plot. Yeah. But
the movie could be exactly the same without it.
I feel like you would have had more of a power at the end of the movie when he leaves if they hadn't had this moment.
Honestly, what it would have been is, if you don't have this, you have no, like, intense romantic moment. You get to the end, and you have just, like, a glance, and then he gets on the plane.
Yeah. It's just mutual respect of something that could be.
Right.
But, yeah, it's... But also, I think this whole part, as soon as they get to the cabin, and maybe it's because it was just that bullet train thing, but I feel like when they get to this cabin until she gets kidnapped, the movie slows down in not a good way.
Yeah.
It's been a more thoughtful, slower film than we're used to with the X-Men movies, especially after X-Men Origins. But this is like the negative end of a slow film.
Yeah, I get the impulse to put that breath there in, like, the structure of the film, but it is too much. It just
it's not
puts the brakes on.
It's not making it thoughtful in a way that benefits either of the characters.
Right.
Because then she does that whole talk about, like, the Wolverine story, which is then a little creepy. She's like, my grandfather used to tell me the story, but Wolverine is the protector. The Wolverine would protect me. Yeah. It's like, well, here he is.
Yeah, and now he's here having sex with you.
Normally, I don't care about this kind of stuff. I know this bothers you in, like, the MCU. During the solo hero films, when they don't call the other Avengers.
It does bother me.
But there's a scene...
There's a scaling
I know,
to it. Like,
I know.
If there's a certain level of disaster, go ahead, handle it yourself, totally makes sense. But once you pass a certain threshold, you're being irresponsible.
When Mariko gets kidnapped, I was just like, call the X-Men now.
Just call the X-Men.
I mean,
like, what else are they doing?
I guess that's Mangold's excuse of like, oh, they're disbanded. I'm like, no, they're not.
They're not.
Everybody else is still at the mansion.
And even if they weren't, he knows somebody would come.
I mean, I guess we're still at the scare where Wolverine can just he can handle the Yakuza.
Yeah, that's true. It's not a
But
big
at the same time,
thing.
think about how much easier the Yakuza would be if you had Storm.
Yeah.
Or
For instance.
Even Iceman.
Even Iceman.
You know? I mean, at the end of X-Men 3, he was in his ice form.
Let's just drop Iceman into this movie and see how it changes.
Yeah, just Shawn Ashmore, as his character has been. So not even the goofy, fun Iceman from the comics, who, like, just jokes and throws snowballs at... Yeah.
Teenager.
Yeah. And so at this point, he wouldn't even be doing the ice slide. He'd just ice up sometimes.
Yeah.
Just throw him in. Yeah.
Drop him in there.
He'd be killed. He'd be killed so fast.
He would die. Wolverine would kill her. He'd be like, you know what? Never mind.
She's been brought back to the house.
Right. To
where her
house
dad
in
is.
Tokyo.
Shinjin is. This is also where, like, the music is really cool.
Yeah.
There's a lot of bits where, like, the music is kind of cool. The composer was talking about he didn't want to do music that you would stereotypically put in a movie set in Japan, but he wanted to use Japanese instruments in his, like, kind of spaghetti western soundtrack.
Oh, that's interesting.
So that's why the soundtrack
I did notice. I kept sort of listening to see if they would have a bit of a stereotype.
No, yeah. So
sound.
it's more of like a western soundtrack through Eastern instruments at times.
Clever.
Yeah, her dad is gonna kill her now.
Yes.
Because
so you find out that he's a villain.
Yeah.
Like, we always knew he was a jerk.
Yeah, but now he's
But, like, he would legit kill his daughter.
Yeah.
Because he wants to get
He was the one who put the hit out.
Yeah.
With someone else we're gonna find out, but to kidnap her and kill her.
Yeah.
A bunch of ninjas show up.
Yeah.
And
I like that. I like how, like, you see the whole scene of him talking to Mariko, and the whole time it's interspersed with scenes of these ninjas, like, sneaking around and, like, closing doors.
They're so quiet and quick and
so
effective.
Fun.
Yeah.
Doing little flips.
Yeah. Everything. All their landings are quiet. Yeah. After they kill somebody, they just slowly shut the door. They just walk by some guy,
really
barely touch somebody's head, and just twist their neck.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just so delicate.
Yep.
I don't know. It's just kind of funny.
Yeah. But it's definitely, like, a cooler scene of ninjas in a superhero movie.
Yeah.
So
not just, like, fighting. Like, doing the thing that ninjas do.
Yeah. Not being seen and taking everybody else out.
Right.
Wolverine is going to go and save her. But Yukio says, I saw you die there. With your heart in your hand. You die. And all my visions are right. There's a scene right before Mariko has her scene with her dad. Wolverine and Yukio go to the hotel where Mariko's fiance is.
Right.
The guy who is played by Brian T.
And he's messing around with some ladies.
Yeah, and Wolverine is funny because he just... I don't know, his lines are just funny. He's like, call me old-fashioned.
Yeah.
But I thought when you got engaged, you were done with this crap. It's just, he becomes such an old man delivering this line.
Well, it's funny, too, because the thing that I thought when he said that, I was like, yeah, he's being a jerk. He's cheating on Mariko. Right. However, moments ago...
Yeah, you just slept with this guy's fiance.
Slept with her.
They know that Mariko doesn't want to go through with the marriage and is probably going to dump the guy as soon as she can.
Yeah.
But Wolverine finds out the guy is he's the one who put the hit out.
Right.
On Mariko, because he knows he's going to get dumped too. There's some funny lines in there, like you've got 10 words, and when he says like you'll never get away, he punches him, and then he asks Yukio, how many words was that?
I like that she just knows.
Yeah,
too. She's
9.
Like, 9.
Yeah, and then so
she's a good like backup person.
Yeah,
she's just on it.
Yeah, there's a scene. And it's fun because she says, "I'm your bodyguard. I have to because you're," and it kind of makes it. He needs somebody because his healing factors.
Like that,
and that's like a fun dynamic.
It is a good dynamic.
There's a line. He throws the guy out the window.
Yeah.
And he lands in a pool, and Yukio's like, how'd you know there was a pool there? And Wolverine says, I didn't. I guess that just...
The thing is, here's the thing. He did. Like, my interpretation of that is that he definitely did, but he's just doing the tough guy thing.
Okay.
That's what I think.
I've never... This always seemed like it's just a bit too long of a line or a pause. I've never really liked the delivery of that line.
Yeah.
I guess it's funny, but yeah, maybe if he did, he was like, nope, I didn't. I'm a tough guy. Yeah.
I was totally gonna murder you.
Yep. Punch a brick on his way out. That didn't hurt.
Boom.
Yeah.
Hit this stage of the movie, and this is the part where it starts feeling like...
Viper's there. Viper kills...
Maybe this should be winding down now.
Yeah, because Viper takes out the dad. Yeah. Takes out Shinjin, who like lands in the water. Right. And they take Mariko away, and Wolverine shows up there. Because they have
plans for Wolverine, basically.
And they don't know... Shinjin is like... They don't see him, but they see everybody else is dead. Right. And so Wolverine uses the big machine that... Yoshida was on to x-ray himself, and he sees that he's got like a little Matrix bug, the bug from the Matrix, on his heart, affecting his healing ability. I'll describe it. So he starts cutting into himself.
He cuts a large slit under his rib.
And then puts his hand into his body.
Gesturing to mimic what he does.
And starts basically just looking for the bug so he can pull it out with his hands.
Yeah, he's just like crawling around inside his chest, which I'm just going to say, like, he's lived a long life. He has a high threshold for pain. I don't believe that he could physically do this. Yeah. Like, I don't believe that he could do that.
He makes that like,
Yeah. Like, I believe that maybe he could withstand someone else doing it. I don't think he could do it himself. I just don't think you can do that kind of thing.
Did you notice that kind of slasher moment where, like, he's getting ready to cut in, and you see Shinjin like walk quickly behind the window that's behind them? You just see him like walk.
Yeah.
Because Shinjin, recovering from the toxins a bit, is now wearing the family's ancestral silver samurai armor.
Are we supposed to assume that he's a mutant?
No, he's not a mutant.
Because there's something about his recovery and like, I don't know, like that whole, once we hit the scene where he's being attacked by Viper, from then on, I just get this feeling.
No, I think it was just not a lethal dose.
Really?
Yeah, maybe it was like...
So he's just determined.
I mean, he's still the guy's son. We'll find out.
What?
He's still Yashada's son.
Well, yeah.
So maybe it was in order not to kill him. Just take him out of...
Oh, I see. Yeah.
But maybe not, because he says to his daughter, he says to Mariko, like, when he looked at me, he saw something, but when he looked at you, it was a mirror. Yeah. I know you're grossed out by this scene.
I am.
But this scene... Like, I remember the first time I saw it. It is intense.
Yeah.
Because there's an alarm going off. When Shinjin shows up in that armor and everything, he kicks the X-ray. So now Wolverine can't see it.
So he's just feeling around.
And so the alarm's going off. Wolverine is too busy with his healing. His healing's not working. And he's, like, digging into his own body. So he's out of commission. And then at one point, he, like, dies.
Yeah.
And Yukio is just, like, bouncing around him while Wolverine is doing the surgery on himself.
Yeah.
And sword fighting him because he could be killed at this moment.
There's almost a comical element.
Yeah.
When he finally he goes into cardiac arrest and he's still conscious in that moment, and he's sort of trying to get Yukio's attention because she's busy.
Yeah.
There's just this moment where it's kind of like a humorous moment.
Yeah. I first time I saw it, I was like, this is one of the most intense scenes in the X-Men movies. I think just the way it's all filmed and everything, it's just like, I don't know, it's a great scene.
It's a good scene. The thing with Yukio is this the scene?
She's like sliding under it and like stopping the sword.
She's very cool.
Yeah.
But there's a moment, I feel like it's in this room, so maybe it's before or after this scene, when she's talking about where she came from and like her whole experience with the family.
That was before.
Was it before?
Yeah.
I just remember I wanted to mention it because she does a lot of exposition in just her acting in that moment. Because I think all she says is like, they found me when I was on the streets and they adopted me, whatever. Like, that's basically all you get. But you see in her face everything that, like, I think it's at the funeral. Whole thing meant to her and, like, how growing up like that impacted her. You see, like, a whole world in her acting. And I was just very impressed with that.
I thought it was the funeral.
It could be. For some reason,
she explained how she was there.
Yeah.
And then, like, the other car rides were talking about how she knew her parents were going to die.
Yeah.
And everything.
Yeah.
So this is what she saw in her vision. Wolverine doing the surgery on his, because he's all better.
Like you do.
He takes out the bug. His healing's back. Because he's healing as she's fighting. You seem less enthused about this scene than me. Maybe it's too gross for you. Maybe you just don't care about it.
I think it's a good action scene. You are always more action scene.
I just think it's like not just a good action, like the bullet train's a good action scene, but this is like a tense action scene where you can just feel like the threat's on the line and everything's like really close.
Yeah.
I guess I'm just impressed by it. And then Wolverine stops the sword with his claws because he's back now.
He's back.
And him and Sinjin kind of have a sword fight. That's not really silhouettes, but it has that kind of feel. Yeah. Because it's like that dark lighting and everything, and the music's really cool.
It's a bit of that kind of classic anime fight.
Yeah.
It's that thing with the sword where he like slices his belly.
I saved it for you to see here. It's his death, Shinjin's death, is basically the same way it is in the comics.
Oh yeah.
Where Wolverine puts his hand right to his neck and pops his claws. Yep. So that's Frank Miller art.
Well, that's one of those things where, like, he gets a chance to
redeem him. Yeah, because Wolverine says, you tried to kill your daughter, live with it, and turns his back.
And he could have lived. But, nope, he's going to come after him again.
Turns around, Wolverine just quickly pops the claws, too. Yeah. There's that scene where it's, like, two swords are in Wolverine. This is a scene, like, this moment he has with Shinjin. I like the way it's filmed. And I like the music. It has, like, some drama to it all. But now that Wolverine can heal, the stakes are just, like, gone. Yeah. So it's more just, like, I don't know, just impressive to, like, how it's been filmed.
Well, I think part of it is you've been seeing Wolverine with a handicap the entire movie. And now is the moment where you get to be like, he's back. He's in the game. And you get to be excited and, like, rooting for him. And you know that he's going to win. And, like... It's just that moment.
Yeah. I guess, because Wolverine doesn't fight anybody else in the movie with a sword beforehand. Or if he does, it's just like the Yakuza with their knives or something. It would have been... I guess you can't, because then you lose that scene with Yukio and stuff. Like a scene where he's fighting him without his healing ability. Yeah. Might have been tenser. But either way, I like the imagery. I just wish there was a bit more drama to that scene. Yeah. But I guess it's whether or not this guy will make the right choice, which he doesn't.
He does not.
The scene where Wolverine is driving now to... the laboratory on his motorcycle. I told you this last night.
Arc too many.
I see what you're saying. The music that plays is so loud. Yeah. I told you this. I was watching it on the TV before my showing it to my mom and my sister, and I had it up loud because of the dialogue, and then it just cuts there, and it's just like, ah! And they were yelling at me to turn it down, like, it's gonna change, but it's so loud for so long. And we see the Shredder robot, the Silver Samurai armor. So Harada is responsible for kidnapping Mariko, even though he swore he was going to protect her. Well, but I guess he was protecting her from the hit. He's Yakuza. Protecting her
from the hit, and now he's bringing her there. I don't think he's bringing her there
to
harm her.
Right.
I think she's just luring Logan.
Because, you don't he calls him pretty boy. He says, get the F out of my way, or something. Go F yourself, pretty boy, Wolverine says. This is the scene. It's Wolverine versus ninjas, which is cool. But we watched that extended scene, and there's, like, it's so much more, like, interesting. Because they're, like, hitting Wolverine with bikes, and then Wolverine, like, hits somebody with the bike.
Yeah, there's something much more Wolverine about that fight in the cut scene. Yeah. Because otherwise it's just him with slicing, but we've seen him slicing things before. And,
but they're, like, throwing nets on him and, like, dragging him around.
I think it's just more, like, not brutal, brutish, sort of.
Well, it shows how, like, even Wolverine would have trouble with, like, 20 ninjas.
Right.
If they're 20 trained ninjas, then they can probably handle and keep this guy, like, at bay. He's still killing some, but, like, they're just a bit different than the people he fought. They're not Sabretooth, they're not robots.
Yeah.
You know? And you don't like that scene because Yu-Gi-Oh! Gets into a snowblower.
Yeah, or what? Yeah.
Like a snowplow with the blades. And just drives into some ninja. Yeah. And then it just, I
prefer it without that.
Yeah. So, but that's the scene that's been cut because of
but
either
I do
it was
like
length.
That scene. If it didn't have that aspect, I think they should have included it because I think it's a much better scene.
I like how they stop him just with like, it was like, 100 poison tipped arrows. Yeah. So they like overtax his healing ability and they just lock him down. Yeah. The look of like Wolverine with just like all those arrows in his back is kind of a cool image. But then he's captured and he's put in the cuffs. They want his claws to pop out so that they can heat up the sword.
We've talked before about how I don't like when they break his claws.
Oh yeah. When Sabretooth stomps on him.
I don't like it. Yeah. It's very upsetting. So now he's here, and Viper basically taunts him so that he'll
pop out
his claws. Yeah. And then they have the heated up sword.
But they don't use it then because he gets out.
They're going to.
Yeah.
So they're gearing up to like slice off his claws. But then he gets away. How does he get away?
The Silver Samurai robot that we think is going to cut it. Mariko jumps in the way, and it moves to the side because it doesn't want to kill Mariko. That's right. And breaks everything. That's how Wolverine gets out. Which makes us think that there should be something between this robot and Mariko. Let's just cut to it. It's Yoshida. It's Ichiro Yoshida.
Yeah, which
inside
you
the suit.
know is going to happen because from when Yukio says, I didn't foresee it, it's just sort of like, so he's probably not dead.
Yeah, we're supposed to be like, gasp! Yeah. Yoshida, but yeah. Here, Chris Claremont, the X-Men writer.
Chris Claremont.
Who wrote the comic that this was based on. He has this to say. What did you think of the movie? They asked him. Chris Claremont says, the first 2 acts were kick-ass. And they set this up. I'm just going to move it over here so I'm reading towards the microphone. They set this up to be a really exceptional, different movie. It was like the film took this giant step forward. I like that it focused on the essence of who Wolverine is and what he does. Hugh Jackman is eloquent, and he owns the character at this point. It's surprisingly multi-dimensional performance. The third act wasn't bad per se, but it was a different tone.
I think he thinks it was bad.
That moment he starts motorcycling up 400 kilometers, he was almost riding into a different movie. It would be interesting to talk to Mangold and ask why they felt they had to go in that direction.
That's diplomatic talk for, I didn't like it. They shouldn't have done it.
That's Chris Claremont on talking to Vulture shortly after the film came out. And we'll actually come back to him on the ending here. Mangold was talking to Den of Geek, UK, the UK Den of Geek, about the Wolverine. This was when Logan came out, so this was like a few years after. They asked him what his experience was doing the Wolverine, and they said, the summer we came out, summer 2013, we came out at the end of the summer, and my observation about what was happening, I think we came out in August. They came out in July.
Wow, he's rambling.
Yeah. I think that we came out after the Superman film, Man of Steel, and a number of other films, Thor: The Dark World, and all the other films that came out before us. Even some blockbusters that weren't comic book themed. But I felt a kind of exhaustion by the time we got our release date. And what was really weird was the studio was really concerned that we have a big CGI action to stay afloat against the other films we were up against. But by that time we got to market, the very thing people were most tired of was the thing that the studio wanted to make sure we had enough of. The thing that studio was most worried about, which was this kind of Hong Kong crime movie, this kind of Japanese noir I was making, was almost our best asset. But the marketplace was changing at that moment so fast, the pressure changed.
Wow, this is really interesting.
I mean, yeah, he just said that, like, the studio pushed for this big CGI Silver Samurai thing.
So the movie he would have made would have been...
Probably wouldn't have had this third act. Yeah. Or at least a different type of third act.
Well, it definitely feels like it was added on and not part of his original vision.
That's Mangold's idea of it. And it's true. The parts of this movie that are the most interesting and the most different and unique are everything that takes place before this ride to the mountains to have this big robot fight. It's even at this part where, like, somebody, I don't know, like me, who you say, like, how I get into the action more. Like, even here I just get bored and lost because it's just the way it keeps bouncing back and forth. Yeah. Like, okay, now Harada's on the good guy's side. Yeah. He's fighting Viper. And it just keeps... And
it's very unclear.
Everybody's just keep going back. But because both Viper and Harada never entered echelons of interesting characters, I don't care what they're doing. Like, Viper never has, like, a mystique coolness to her.
Yeah.
Harada was cool, like, in that Arrow scene you liked at the beginning.
Yeah.
But never really, like, went beyond the Call of Duty after that. And so, like, having a whole action montage that involves them is just kind of like, I don't care.
Well, it never really needs Viper at all. Like, she could just be written completely
She's just like
out
the
of
scientist
the film.
there, yeah.
If the whole thing had just been this, like, really dark, violent family drama where you find out that, like, it's all this infighting and, like, very political, that's very interesting and different. You can throw Wolverine into that. That's fine.
Yeah.
But, yeah, like, having it end up be this, like, sci-fi giant fight is just, it's unnecessary. And when it reveals itself to be Ichiro, you just don't have the characterization to give that any payoff. Like, you have the big fight with the Silver Samurai, and then you have the reveal, and it's like, oh, it was the grandfather all along. But you've only ever seen the grandfather
at the very beginning.
At the very, very beginning,
or
where he's just
kid.
This, like, young guy, like, whatever, he just wants to survive. And then you see him as the grandfather. And now, all of a sudden, he's been the arch-villain the whole time. You can see how that would happen, but they don't give you any of it.
Right.
So there's no emotional payoff.
Right. Yeah.
And they just wasted time with the big battle.
Yeah, it's definitely where it gets messier. And I think as time has gone on, I'm less patient with this third act than I used to be. When I first saw it, I'm like, well, it's the kind of movie I see anyway, so it's all right.
Right.
But now I'm just like, no, I want to go back to because, like, the other stuff is more artfully filmed. Like the Yukio battle against Shinjin, or even Wolverine fighting Shinjin. That's, like, done with an eye towards, like, I want to make this look good. This just looks very similar to everything else.
Yeah, it doesn't matter at all.
But he does. He cuts off his claws.
Yep, so then he cuts off his claws.
One claw, and then he gets a second claw when Wolverine's hanging.
He's drilling in to get the marrow.
I don't understand. So I guess they're saying, for this purpose, to get Wolverine's healing ability, you have to get the DNA from his bone marrow.
Well, because bone marrow is what makes white blood cells, so they're probably connecting his healing factor.
How does Wolverine heal? Because his bones are covered in adamantium. So how would the DNA...
Well, there must be connections to his bloodstream, otherwise his bones would just die.
I guess I'm thinking too hard then about the adamantium. But it's like one of those things where it's like, well, how does this work then?
Yeah.
Like, how does this work for Wolverine? Because his whole bones...
You mean just, like, living his life?
Yeah.
Like, where to...
Yeah.
There has to be...
If his entire skeleton is covered...
There has to be blood vessels connecting them.
Okay. Ugh. Viper gets killed by an elevator to the head.
Oh, yeah! They, like, tie her to one of the weights in the elevator.
Throw
and then
her down.
Just, like...
Yukio kills her, yeah.
Yeah, Yukio climbs on one of the weights or something and, like, gets it so that Viper shoots up in the air.
And hits the dumb
I was
weight.
thinking that she would just go up and then, like, hit the top or something. But no, the weight, the counterbalance comes down and hits her right in the head.
Yeah.
Oh, it's brutal.
She spins around a little bit. Harada dies because the Silver Samurai garbed Yoshida stabs him through the chest.
Yes.
So that's a little sad. Especially because he, like, dies alone.
Yeah.
And, like, he
alone
loves Merrick.
in his lack of meaning.
No. Nothing is without meaning.
Nothing is without meaning.
Yeah.
We should be digging into this more.
As he's drilling those, like, hand drills into Wolverine's claws, which are just spaced enough to do that, too. And Wolverine's like, ah! And, like, graying out, and his eyes are whiting over and everything, glazing up. Mariko throws a knife into his skull.
Into her grandfather's skull.
And it's funny because Yoshida's just like, Mariko, it's me, your grandfather.
He's weirdly unfazed by the knife
he's got the healing,
in his skull.
But then when they break it off so that he's not connected to Wolverine's marrow anymore, and then he gets stabbed through the neck, and then Wolverine gets bone claws, they heal out, and then stabs him and then throws him off the building. That's how he dies. Yeah. But it's funny because he's like, Mariko, it's Pop Pop. What are you doing?
See, the knife, when he has the bone claws and he stabs him and he uses the claws to throw him over the thing, that's another moment that just drives me nuts. Because bones...
The bone claws would snap.
Would just snap.
Yeah.
I mean, how heavy is that thing?
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
It's adamantium.
I know. Yeah, that's the thing. We learned out he was stockpiling adamantium, so that entire suit is adamantium. So sometimes Wolverine seems very heavy.
Yeah.
So. But anyways, he kind of dies, but not really. Wolverine. Because he passes out, he's gone, and he's in the sheet heaven again with Jean.
That's a through line that works pretty effectively.
Yeah, it shows up it shows up again and again. And this one, she's like, "You're here." He's like, "Yeah." And she says, "Are you gonna stay?" And he says, "I can't. I need to. There's people I need to protect," or something like that. But there's a sad line where she's like, "I'm all alone here."
Yeah.
And like you said, so like if she's a psychic echo, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it's like, well, Scott's in the next room actually.
Yeah.
You can just go see him.
You murdered him.
Yeah, Scott's at the window of this.
He's like, guys,
what are you doing in there?
Still not with me. Cool.
But yeah, so that's a little sad because she just leaves. And he says that whole thing like, "I love you, I always will."
Yeah.
She's not. I think she's a little done with that BS. She's like, "Well, that's great, but I'm dead. So you keep on loving me while being able to live. You stabbed me through the chest." But yeah, he kind of comes at peace with it because he says like, "I had to. You were hurting people."
Yeah.
And like it's kind of like
he vocalized that, which is a good therapeutic moment.
Yeah. And he basically like Muriko's like, "Could you stay?" He's like, "I'm a soldier. I have to go." So he has to go and do. But it's funny because he's a soldier. But when Yuriko's like, "Where do you want to go?" He says, "I don't know." I was like, "Well, you're a soldier. So what's your plan? Where are you going to go anyways?"
Maybe
I don't know.
He's still a Ronin.
Yeah. It's, him and Muriko have this like goodbye and
they kiss in front of everybody in the airport.
Yeah. In regards to the ending, let's talk about it first and then we'll bring up Claremont. So he goes away and he looks out the window and he's kind of sad. Mariko is now in charge of all those, that company. And Yukio is sticking with him because he's her bodyguard.
Which I was all excited about because I was like, now they're going to be together.
The movie, like, the camera kind of like slowly zooms out as they're on a plane. And he's like, "Where do you want to go?" "I don't know." And she's like, "Interesting."
Yeah.
And so like we're going to have like these adventures with these two. We don't. We get the end credits scene for Days of Future Past.
Which has nothing to do with Yukio.
But it says 2 years later.
Oh, yeah.
So I don't know if they were ever planning on, like, what, if like Wolverine's a soldier.
Maybe they just gave it space just in case they wanted to have another Wolverine.
Yeah, but he's a soldier. But he didn't go back to the X-Men for 2 years after that.
Well, maybe he did. But Xavier
isn't
with
think
them.
Okay, you think he's just been doing other stuff with the X-Men for 2 years.
Yeah.
Okay. Maybe. But yeah, it's kind of like, what about the Yukio stuff?
Yeah. Well, I mean, she's just the best character in the movie. She's just great. She's a fabulous character, and it seems insane that she never comes back. Especially since they have her stick with him at the end. Like, if she just stayed in Japan and he flew away, fine. Like, that's sad to lose her, but she's living her life. But she specifically gets on the plane and goes with him. It's just weird that she never shows up again. Yeah.
Not in Days of Future Past. Just, she's gone.
Yeah.
From the movies altogether. Though, maybe we'll talk about her a little bit, but not really. Again.
Okay.
You won't be thrilled.
Great.
It's not the same actress. But it might be the character. It's a weird thing. Anyway, Chris Claremont continued to tell Vulture. They asked him, "You told me even though the third act didn't work for you, you really liked the very ending," Chris Claremont said. So Chris Claremont tells Vulture, "The last scene on the tarmac in the plane was a recovery, bringing the film back to its center. The relationship between Logan and Mariko and Yukio. Mariko is suddenly looking very chic. She runs the roost. But what does it mean now that she runs Clan Yoshida? Well, in the comic, it meant one of the biggest crime syndicates in Japan. What does it mean in the movie? I don't know. But that last scene made me want to know what happens next with Mariko. And the dynamic between Logan and Yukio is even more interesting. Sure Wolverine is. With a sidekick, especially one who considers herself his guardian. How's that going to work? That's nothing we've seen before. As a writer and a member of the audience sitting there, I took that moment and immediately started to play with it to come up with an adventure in my mind, which I guess when you're doing a franchise like this is exactly the reaction you want. But then we know that, didn't happen.
Didn't go anywhere.
So Chris Claremont liked that end, but he also wanted to see all
where
that
it
other
went
stuff.
From there.
Yeah, which we don't get to see. It continues the tradition of the X-Men having this unfulfilled cliffhanger ending.
What the heck, X-Men?
They just love doing this. It's the Magneto with his Brotherhood and freeing Emma Frost. It's the Dark Phoenix thing in X-Men 2. It's just, and it won't stop. It's not going to stop.
It's not even like
the next movie will do this.
And you think maybe they'll go in a direction, but then they don't.
Yeah.
They very specifically and purposefully lead you in a certain direction, and then they just drop it.
You know what? I'm not going to quote the whole thing, but Mangold was talking about how they were talking about like the oversight you get. He's like, there's a surprising lack of oversight with all this stuff. Like a lot of like people controlling it. Mm-hmm. It just doesn't seem like Fox cares. So
if they don't care, then someone needs to...
The only people who seem to care about the continuity are the people who are actually working on the movie at the time. It doesn't ever seem like Fox cared about it. There was no overseeing.
I just don't understand how you make a movie knowing there was a previous movie that was heading in a certain direction and just say screw it.
I guess Lauren Shuler Donner was the closest they had to like that kind of Kevin Feige overseer with these movies, but I guess that just wasn't as important to her. I mean, there's something to be said about we just want to tell this story. Who cares? So, like, they just wanted to tell this story. So what if, like, X-Men Origins was 20 years in the past and X-Men The Last Stand was 2 movies ago? We're still telling this story.
But there's a way to do that with style.
Yeah.
Like, you have the style of vignettes that you aren't spending the entire time being like, what's next? You know?
Yeah, I know.
If you're going to do that, be purposeful about it.
It's one of those things where, like, the X-Men just need to happen faster than movies.
Yeah.
Like, if this was a show, then you could have a season where Wolverine is separate from the X-Men, hanging out with Yukio and Madripoor or something.
Yeah.
But when it's a movie and they're coming out, like, every 3 or 4 years, there is this, like, oh, well, we can't. It's frustrating. There's just too many characters. As much as I love the movies, the X-Men need faster means of storytelling.
Yeah.
The Days of Future Past, very quick thing.
Teaser.
Simon Kingbird and Bryan Singer were involved with that. I think Mangold directed it still. Magneto shows up. He's got his magnetic powers back. Wolverine still has his bone claws. Xavier shows up. He's in an identical body.
So, how did that happen? Because, like, presumably, he commandeered that coma guy.
In X-Men 3, right.
Which, like, don't do that.
Yeah.
But anyway, then he had plastic surgery so he could look like himself?
Either it's a clone, or his twin, or he's psychically making everybody think it's him.
I'm going to go with that one.
Or they don't care.
Yeah.
Which is, I think that one.
That's the actual one.
I mean, this was a pretty cool end credits thing.
Yeah.
When we first saw it. Now it's just kind of like, but what about the Yukio stuff? But I was very excited for Days of Future Past. So
it was cool.
And it was cool seeing,
I also sort of assumed, like, when you see that scene for the first time, you assume it will be explained in the following movie. And it's not really.
No.
Like, they just take it and run.
Because Days of Future Past, when we see those characters, it's the future. Wolverine's got gray in his hair.
So you just sort of, like...
And the fight, that you saw them, like, showing the Trask Industries on the thing. So, like, I guess the fight with the Sentinels started, like, the next day.
Yeah.
Now it has less coolness to it all. But I guess at the time it was cool to see Magneto and Xavier again.
I feel like every step of the X-Men franchise... you are 100% positive that you will never see these characters again.
Yeah, right?
You watch a movie and you're like, that's it.
Yep.
I wish I could, but they're never going to do it again.
You can't believe anything.
And then they bring him back.
I mean, we never see Liv Schreiber again. We never see Nightcrawler, or at least that Nightcrawler again. It was just one of these, like, we didn't know what to believe anymore.
Yep.
I guess it was like 7 years since we had seen a living Professor X and a powerful Magneto, because it was 2006 to 2013. 7 years since we saw those two characters.
Yeah, and the actors are, like, doing stuff. Like, it's not like this is what they did and now they're just sitting around. So you sort of assume they've got other stuff going on. They're probably not going to want to come back to this. But they do. Real quick,
during the credits, I noticed that the special effects supervisor was named Brian Cox, who played William Stryker in X-Men 2.
What?
Yeah, different Brian Cox.
Crazy.
Okay, that's the movie.
Yeah. So, do you, having seen it one more time, like this movie?
I do like this movie. It has lost some of its impact, I guess, over the years. I like it less. When I say I like it less than I did, that's not me saying it's a bad movie or that I don't like it. It's just I was kind of like shocked how good it was when it first came out. And really, until he goes to fight the Silver Samurai robot form and everything, it is still, like, really good. I found the Miracle Romance stuff dull when we first saw it, but, like, I was more focused on, like, the other stuff. You can just sort of ignore it. And at the time, I didn't care about the big lab fight and everything. Now I'm just like, oh, I'm done.
Yeah.
I guess it's one of those things where I wish if it was going to end with a big action scene, we somehow got that big ninja fight in that was cut out and maybe like built that up to the end. And then we didn't have all this exposition and fighting at the end. If like all those loose ends could be tied up with that ninja fight. If there was some, but so now I still really like it. I think another issue this movie has, it's almost like the exact opposite problem the X-Men movies have, whereas Logan basically tells the same story, I think is more effective all the way through. So now the Wolverine is almost redundant, which it's funny because usually the X-Men movies make a good movie and then the follow-up is bad.
Yeah.
But it's nice because the Wolverine movies somehow found an uphill trajectory to go in terms of quality, which is like when you really, if you just look at the 3 Wolverine movies by themselves, it's kind of shocking that they, I guess for me, because you like Origins in your way.
I do.
For me, I just find it shocking that we could get to the place of the Wolverine and then Logan with these films.
Well, for whatever reason, even maybe just because they're kind of solo films, they got directors who had a specific point of view for certain...
Mangold comes back for Logan. So,
he did? Yeah. He did Logan?
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel the same way. I think pretty much exactly. Like, I didn't love it the first time I saw it, but I did feel like it was an impressive,
we were
film.
Still...
Like, they were really doing a movie.
Yeah.
It's directed very intentionally.
Yeah. We were still doing the, this was still like on a weird upswing that maybe we had forgotten about because of Last Stand and Days of Future, and Origins. Suddenly we had First Class and now the Wolverine. And then spoiler alert, I like Days of Future Past as well. So it was like, at that time, it's like, how did they get this right? 3 movies after it felt like the series was never going to recover in a lot of ways.
Yeah, it's true.
So
it really did.
Yeah.
But they kept pushing through.
But so you didn't love it when you first saw it.
Well, I didn't. That sounds like I didn't like it. I did like it.
Yeah.
Just compared to you.
Right. Yeah.
I don't feel things quite as much as you. But, I did like it, and it was good. I don't remember feeling the same way originally about the ending. So I think maybe I just kind of, rode the wave to the end, the initial time.
It's just now, it's like you said, in 2013, he thought the audience was kind of tired of it. Now it's just I
know.
It's not even there's nothing really impressive being done in that last scene at all. It's just a big CGI chrome.
There's nothing interesting.
Yeah. And maybe because I don't really care about the Silver Samurai. So yeah, that's definitely the hardest one to get through. Because I feel like until you get that, it is a really interesting, as a solo superhero movie, even apart from the X-Men, it's very unique and cool. And it feels I don't know.
I think if they had managed to stay on that level energy-wise to the end, that would have been a really interesting feeling. Because without having that intense,
CGI
big fight, you have a different emotional reaction to that. If you had just sort of coasted through and had those, there were highs and stuff, but if you're generally just sort of settling through this and then it ends, that's a much different experience than what you end up with.
Right. Well, it's in the Avengers solo films, even though the threats get big and sometimes, in your opinion, too big for the solo hero, they're still not fighting, it's not one person just fighting an entire alien army and then we being well, that didn't make, they still keep it well, Captain America can handle this. But I don't know. If they had just kept it at that crime organization level, I think the Wolverine would be remembered a lot more affectionately. I think people still think it's good.
Yeah.
But I think
it's undercut a lot. By
I
the
think
ending.
Because Logan is more wfocused, then they're just why do I need to?
Logan. Once we get to Logan.
Yeah.
That's a much more successful movie.
I think it's because, we'll talk about it with Logan, but Logan's rated R, so now you don't have to worry about toys. Now you don't have to worry about kids, your budget's lower, so there's less oversight.
Yeah.
I think, he said, it was the studio that seemed to be pushing.
Yeah.
So, and another quote that Mangold said was that between the Wolverine and Logan, there was a regime change. So there were just different people in charge at the time.
Well, the whole vibe, once you get to Logan, is completely different. It doesn't even feel like they're promoting an X-Men movie.
Yeah. Watching it, again, I still like it, but I surprisingly have less patience for the big end.
Yeah.
I was a little shocked by that all. Well, that's the Wolverine then. 2013's the Wolverine.
Yeah. Studio ruins things again.
Well, yeah.
That can be the title.
And Chris Claremont's not wrong. Like, as soon as we get to the tarmac, it's like a normal... It's back to the movie we were watching. Back. It's so weird. I don't know, but it's so long. Mm-hmm. The big fight scene and everything. I don't know really, like, if you were to put me down with paper, like, how you would start course correcting. You know what I mean? Because it's so much of the movies. Like, I need to come up with 15 more minutes or something. And you got to wrap up Viper and Harada.
Yeah, I think what I would have done was cut Viper completely.
Yeah.
I think I wouldn't have had Silver Samurai at all. I think I would cut Viper because she's completely unnecessary. Mm-hmm. And have Yoshida be the villain ultimately, but in a much more... what's the word I'm looking for? Subversive kind of way, like not like overtly, here I am, I'm physically fighting you.
Right.
But like it turns out he has captured Wolverine and he deals with it. That kind of thing, I think would have been more successful.
Yeah. Sequel-wise, we never get to see Madripoor, so it might have been cool to see like Wolverine with an eye patch pretending to be like a crime lord and there with Yukio.
Eye patches make everything fun.
That could have been fun. I thought this was the movie that oh my gosh, that Hugh Jackman talked about really upping his workout regime. Oh, yeah. But I think it's the next one where he's like, this is the way I wanted to look for these movies. Mm-hmm. But I guess in like 2000, when they hired Aronofsky, oh my gosh, I keep calling him Wolverine. Good job, Hugh Jackman. Hugh Jackman called The Rock up for workout advice for this movie, which seems kind of funny.
That's intense.
Yeah. Oh man, his workout. I looked up his workout regime. It's just gross. He like dehydrated himself for like 36 hours.
What? Why?
Because it gives you that like veiny, jacked look. Ugh. Yeah.
The things people do to their bodies.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's our thoughts. I'm Dust vs. Tweak everywhere online. Apart from other shows on the Radio Meanwhile Network, I'm the co-host of the podcast, The All the Books Show. Thank you to Prophetic Music for our theme song. So our next episode, if you'll join us, we're finally talking about the 2 episodes of the 90s animated series, The Cure and Come the Apocalypse.
Do you promise?
I have been mentioning these episodes for so long. I'm tired of saying them, and we have to talk about them next week. I'm already over it.
The Cure and Come the Apocalypse next week, or next episode.
And then the next movie we're talking about is Days of Future Past.
Yes.
That'll be a fun one. That's a longer one, too.
Yeah.
It's like I think it's like almost 2 hours
We talk for too long about these movies.
Well, this one, less so, I think. Right? Let's look. Already less so. Look at that.
Is it?
Yes, as opposed to the 3-hour Origins conversation.
Okay, but that was insanity.
That almost killed you. Excited for The Cure and the Apocalypse? It's a Rogue episode.
Yeah, Rogue episode.
Finally get to a Rogue episode. And you're excited for Days of Future Past?
I am.
Yeah. Hilary owns well, I guess we both own the Rogue cut. Mm-hmm. No promises if I'm going to watch both cuts.
Which cut are you going to watch?
I was thinking of watching the theatrical one.
I'll let you watch
the Rogue cut.
Okay.
Because I've seen the Rogue cut, so... Because it weirdly changes a lot.
It changes so much.
It's not just like how, it's not like in this movie where they just cut scenes.
Yeah.
But the story's the same.
It changes the story.
Characters die at different places. Mm-hmm. It's definitely a discussion to have. Again, you can find more about this show and others like it at our network's website, radiomeanwhile.com. Please follow us on Facebook and Twitter at Previously on X. And please rate, subscribe, and share this show on iTunes, Spotify, YouTube, or I guess it's not iTunes, is it? It's Apple.
Oh, do they not do iTunes anymore?
They do, but you don't... I don't know. My wife said a thing about iTunes.
Is it like Apple Podcasts now?
Yeah. Subscribe to the show on iTunes, Spotify, YouTube, wherever you get your podcasts.
You said iTunes again.
I know. I don't care. People know what I'm talking about. Apple.
The Apple thing.
Share the show on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, wherever you get your podcasts. Thanks for listening, Bub.
Bub.